Chapter 1319. Confrontation. What happened? The flying sword in his hand trembled, causing Jean Lan's expression to change drastically. She had never encountered such a situation before. Stop! Seeing that the flying sword was about to break free from his grip, Jean Lan shouted, "Stop!" Whoosh! When he heard Jean Lan's words, Ning Yu stopped in midair. He looked at Jean Lan in confusion and said, "Don't tell me you're thinking of throwing the flying sword out." "Throw my ass," Jean Lan berated. "I've changed my mind. If any of you dare to take a step into the bamboo forest, I'll let you have a taste of its power." Jean Lan took a step forward and held the flying sword in front of her chest. She looked like she would attack if Ning Yu continued moving forward. "Don't worry about her. Getting the flying sword is more important." The sapling urged from within his storage ring. Obviously, the will in the flying sword was extremely important to the sapling. If he could devour the will within the flying sword, he would even be able to understand the battle that took place tens of thousands of years ago and find out who cut down the world tree. All right, Ning Yu clenched his teeth and pushed his speed to the limit. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the edge of the bamboo forest and leaped into it. Although there was a barrier around the bamboo forest, it did not stop people from entering the bamboo forest from the outside world. If someone wanted to come out of the bamboo forest, the barrier would stop them. Whoosh! Whoosh! Not only did Ning Yu enter the bamboo forest, but the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf also followed Ning Yu into the bamboo forest. The scarred, bloodthirsty wolf did not dare to approach Jean Lan. He retreated to the edge of the bamboo forest and was even trembling. Jean Lan had a trump card that could instantly kill a high-level Earth Supreme. The scarred, bloodthirsty wolf was no fool. He did not want to die at Jean Lan's hands for no reason. I've said it before, as long as you dare take a step into the bamboo forest, I'll let you have a taste of its power. Jean Lan's face darkened. He immediately waved the flying sword in his hand and slashed at Ning Yu. Retreat! The scarred, bloodthirsty wolf's expression changed drastically when he saw Jean Lan's action. Ning Yu was the key to neutralizing the green radish's poison. If Ning Yu was injured or died, then they would be completely finished. It's fine. A terrifying light burst forth from Ning Yu's eyes. Then he brandished the red demon sword and slashed with it. Ding! When the two flying swords collided, a crisp sound rang out. Ning Yu only felt the sky turn dark, and he felt drowsy. Not good. It can actually absorb people's minds. Ning Yu was shocked. He hurriedly contacted the Red Fiend and the sapling to get them to help. Ning Yu knew very well that the reason he was feeling drowsy was because Jean Lan's flying sword had shot out a cold beam. It was obvious that the cold light was the will left behind by the flying sword. "Don't worry." The sapling's joyful voice sounded in Ning Yu's mind. Whoosh! Shortly after, the sapling shot out from the storage ring. Its two branches swayed in the wind as it charged towards Jean Lan. "Leave the red demon sword to me for now." The Red Fiend was not idle either. He controlled the red demon sword to fly out and collided with the silver flying sword in Jean Lan's hand. Buzz! The two flying swords collided continuously in midair, causing the void of the entire bamboo forest to shatter. The bamboo forest is about to break. At the corner, the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf's eyes narrowed. The scarred, bloodthirsty wolf never expected the collision of the two flying swords to produce such a terrifying power. He was momentarily stunned. Retreat! Ning Yu knew how terrifying the will in the red demon sword was. Since Jean Lan's silver flying sword could contend with the red demon sword, it meant that there was a terrifying will in the silver flying sword as well. After being berated by Ning Yu, the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf immediately reacted and retreated. Even though he was a 6th grade Earth Sovereign, he could not get close to this level of confrontation. After all, he had yet to completely neutralize the green radish's poison in his body. Humph! Jean Lan moved. The The silver flying sword and the red demon's sword exchanged blows. As for Jinlan, he was fighting with Ningyu. Rumble. Jinlan was an early 7th grade Earth Supreme. His strength was unfathomable, and he was extremely powerful among his peers. So powerful. Ningyu realized how terrifying Jinlan was as soon as they exchanged blows. Although he was only an early 7th grade Earth Supreme, his overall strength was enough to contend with a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. One must know that with Ningyu's current fighting prowess, he could even confront and kill a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. For Jinlan to be able to fight Ningyu to a draw, one could imagine how terrifying her strength was. You won't be able to escape today. Jinlan was furious. He was determined to kill Ningyu. In Jinlan's opinion, Ningyu was the same as Jin Yeming. They were both eyeing her treasured sword. When she and Jin Yeming entered an ancient cave abode together, she was a little unhappy when she was chosen by the silver flying sword. She did not think much of it. Who would have thought that when she arrived at the bloodthirsty wolf clan, Jin Yeming would suddenly attack, injure her, and imprison her in the bamboo forest? Fortunately, the silver flying sword protected its master and entered the bamboo forest with her. Otherwise, given Jin Yeming's personality, she would have killed her long ago. Now that Ningyu was also eyeing her flying sword, she was extremely angry and wanted to kill Ningyu. Why should I escape? Ningyu forced Jinlan to retreat with one move and tried to speak in a calm tone. There's something strange about that flying sword of yours. If you continue using it, it might affect your mind and make you... Shut up! Jinlan berated and interrupted Ningyu. Don't try to scare me. That flying sword is my natal flying sword. I've already left a soul imprint in it. Pfft. However, just as Jinlan finished reprimanding him, he spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his entire body began to sway. Oh no! The will has broken free from the flying sword and is trying to enter her body. At that moment, the sapling and red fiend's anxious words reached Ningyu's mind. Upon hearing that, Ningyu's expression turned ugly. Ningyu knew how terrifying such a will was. Back in Cave 3 Stone, he had relied on the will in the red fiend's sword to force the three-legged golden crow into retreat. If the will in the silver flying sword entered Jinlan's body and took control of him, he would become a powerful fighting machine. Is there a way to stop it? Ningyu asked in a deep voice. He did not wish for such a terrifying thing to happen. There's a way, but... Red Fiend hesitated and did not continue speaking. Speak, Ningyu said coldly. You control the will in the red fiend's sword to enter Jinlan's body and fight against the will in the silver flying sword. Red Fiend gritted his teeth and said, If you succeed, you will devour the will in the silver flying sword and your strength will skyrocket. If you fail, both you and the will in the red fiend's sword will be devoured and dissipate. Swoosh! As he spoke, the will in the silver flying sword suddenly broke free and transformed into a shadow that entered Jinlan's body. Swoosh! At the same time, the will in the red fiend sword left the sword and chased after Jinlan. Guard me! Chapter 1320. Two Wills Guard. Seeing Ningyu's soul force entering Jinlan's body, Hong Emo roared and controlled the red demonic sword to hover before Ningyu, guarding for Ningyu. The confrontation between the two wills was no small matter. Under this situation, they couldn't be disturbed in the slightest. Otherwise, all their efforts would go to waste. The slightest carelessness would result in their bodies shattering. It's a pity that the will in the silver flying sword has benefited Ningyu. The sapling was a little speechless. He and Hong Emo had fought the silver flying sword for so long, but in the end the will in the flying sword had left the flying sword and entered Jinlan's body. Actually, it wasn't that the sapling couldn't enter Jinlan's body, but he didn't dare to. Due to the powerful fighting strength of the sapling, There was a high chance that it would trigger the will's resistance if it entered Jean Lan's body. The resistance left behind by the ancient powerhouse was undoubtedly something that could even cause Jean Lan's body to explode. Let me quickly refine that thing. Since there wasn't any benefit here, the sapling turned into an afterimage and returned to his spatial ring. In an instant, the entire place turned silent. Ningyu and Jinlan stood there like two wooden pillars without any reaction. Even their auras were gradually dissipating. Hong Mo controlled the red demonic sword to hover above Ningyu's head, intimidating the enemies in the surroundings. As for the scarred wolf, he tidied his clothes and nodded his head towards the other wolves outside the bamboo forest to get them to help him break the restriction. Russell. There was a total of 3 6th-grade Earth sovereigns and a 1st-grade Earth sovereign outside the bamboo forest, with the Azure Wolf King taking the lead and the 3 6th-grade Earth sovereign realm bloodthirsty wild wolves assisting. They swiftly broke through the restrictions of the bamboo forest. Huff! The scarred wolf let out a long breath when the restriction was broken. Truth be told, the scarred wolf was even trembling when the two wills clashed, fearing that he would be affected. After all, the greenweed poison in his body had yet to be resolved, so he couldn't bring out the strength of a 6th-grade Earth sovereign. Buzz! At the same time, in Jinlan's sea of consciousness, Ningyu and Jinlan turned into 2 small golden figures, one on the left and one on the right. In front of them, 2 wills, one red and one white, were fighting. It was clear that the white will was the will of the silvery white flying sword, while the red was the will of the red demon sword. In the confrontation between these 2 wills, no one could do anything to the other, and neither had the upper hand. Ningyu, I will kill you. Jean Lan's expression was extremely dark as he stared at Ningyu, ready to strike at any moment. In Jean Lan's opinion, the reason why the white will had left the silver flying sword was because of Ningyu. As long as she could kill Ningyu, not only would she be able to stop the battle between the 2 wills, but she would also have the opportunity to control the red will. Jean Lan did not want to miss out on such a good opportunity. Whoosh! Jean Lan was not an indecisive person. When she said she would attack, she immediately let go of everything else and charged forward, throwing a punch at Ningyu's head. This area was Jean Lan's sea of consciousness, so she could unleash 120% of her combat power here. Her fist, which contained a terrifying aura, instantly arrived in front of Ningyu's head and slammed down hard. Block! Naturally, Ningyu would not just sit and wait for death. He also threw a punch, and it collided with Jean Lan's fist. Bang! When the 2 fists collided, Jean Lan was immediately pushed back to the edge of her sea of consciousness. How can you be so strong? Jean Lan's expression changed. She did not expect Ningyu to be so strong. One had to know that she was an early stage, 7th grade human supreme. Her cultivation level was much higher than Ningyu's. In terms of soul energy, she was on par with Ningyu. They were both late stage, 8th grade. No matter how one looked at it, she was not weaker than Ningyu. Why did Ningyu have the upper hand in that exchange just now? It's so. Ning, you did not want to get entangled with Jean Lan. His main task was to cooperate with the will in the red demon sword and subdue the white will, or even devour it. Swoosh! So after answering Jean Lan, Ningyu leaped and arrived in front of the red will. The red will understood and suddenly burrowed into Ningyu's body, merging with Ningyu. Rumble! Ningyu felt his body tremble. He was very familiar with this feeling. It was similar to when he was in the 3-stone cave. Humph! Let's merge too. Jean Lan snorted coldly and instantly merged with the white will. Ningyu and the red will join forces, while Jean Lan and the white will join forces. They fought in Jean Lan's sea of consciousness. At first, the 2 sides of the battle were still Ningyu and Jean Lan. The 2 bodies were controlled by them. In the end, Ningyu and Jean Lan's consciousness gradually became blurry. The 2 wills each took control of the main body. The battle became more and more terrifying. On several occasions, Jean Land's sea of consciousness was almost destroyed. Fortunately, the red will helped. Otherwise, Jean Lan would have been long gone. Hee, I didn't expect your will to still be around. After exchanging a few more blows, the white will retreated and said sinisterly, If you haven't dissipated, how can I dissipate? The red will said in a deep voice. You'll dissipate sooner or later anyway. Why don't we make a deal? The white will said, There's no deal to make. You're all invaders after all. You're destined to be obliterated. The red will refused flatly and said coldly, You want to obliterate me? That depends on whether you have the ability to do so. The white will said, sinisterly. Since it was controlling Jean Lan, its tone was rather feminine. Since I've run into you, you can stay here forever. The red will seemed very determined. It suddenly broke free from Ningyu's body, turned into a shadow, and charged at the white will. The white will also left Jean Lan's body and collided with the red will. As soon as they collided, the white will realize that something was wrong. Lunatic, you're a lunatic. The white will roared like a madman. It wanted to break free, but the red will began to burn and cast a secret technique to tie itself to the white will, preventing it from escaping. Ningyu, I'll give you a great opportunity. After Ningyu regained consciousness, the red will controlled the white will and entered Ningyu's body. Hurry up! Hearing that, Ningyu knew what to do. He instantly left Jean Lan's mind and the soul force returned to his body. So fast! Seeing Ningyu leave Jean Lan's mind, the Red Fiend was a little surprised. The Red Fiend had some understanding of the clash between two powerful wills. It did not make sense for the two wills to clash so quickly. However, since Ningyu did not say anything, the Red Fiend did not ask. He could only continue to stand guard for Ningyu. What's going on? Outside the bamboo forest, the scarred berserk wolf was puzzled. As a 6th grade Earth Supreme, although the scarred berserk wolf was poisoned, he could still sense that Ningyu's soul force had returned to his body. Chapter 13:21. Increase in strength. Should we completely seal off the bamboo forest? The Green Wolf King had always held a grudge against Ningyu and wanted Ningyu dead. After all, in the Green Wolf King's opinion, he was the one who brought Ningyu here. If it wasn't for Ningyu, Jean Yeming wouldn't have died and the bloodthirsty wolves wouldn't be in danger. Offending the ruler of the Qinya Empire was even scarier than offending the palace masters of Emperor Palace and 100 Flower Palace. The ruler of the Qinya Empire had unfathomable strength. Nonsense. The scarred, bloodthirsty Wolf King said coldly, whether we can get rid of the poison in our bodies depends entirely on Ningyu. If we anger him, will you help us get rid of the poison? The Green Wolf King was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Don't bring this up again. Otherwise, don't blame us for being hostile. Apart from the scarred, bloodthirsty Wolf King, the other 3 bloodthirsty wolves also scolded. Got it. The Green Wolf King lowered his head. However, there was a hint of viciousness in the Green Wolf King's eyes. The viciousness was well hidden by the Green Wolf King, so no one noticed it. At the same time, in the bamboo forest, Ningyu's sea of consciousness rumbled as various fragments appeared in his mind. The first scene was a man holding the red demon sword, guarding the sky above a huge city. In the second scene, an unparalleled expert wielding a demonic sword slashed at a towering tree, directly splitting it into 2. The third scene was a chaotic battle. Countless powerhouses fought, and the scene became chaotic. The fourth scene. Crack! At this point, the scene broke, and Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes. Buzz! As soon as Ningyu opened his eyes, his aura shot into the sky. A late-stage, 6th grade Human Supreme. A peak 6th grade Human Supreme. After devouring and refining the 2 wills, Ningyu felt unprecedentedly powerful. The essence in his body was vigorous, and his body was filled with power. His cultivation had also advanced from the mid-6th grade human sovereign to the peak 6th grade human sovereign. Hee, you're awake? Suddenly, Ningyu noticed that someone was looking at him. Needless to say, it was definitely Jinlan. Jinlan's eyes were filled with viciousness. If looks could kill, Jinlan would have probably cut Ningyu into pieces long ago. I'll kill you. Jinlan charged out and threw a punch at Ningyu's head. Pa! Ningyu stood where he was and raised his right hand. He opened his fist into a palm and grabbed Jinlan's fist, preventing her from moving forward. Let me go. Jinlan berated. Ningyu shrugged, and then his eyes became extremely cold. He said in a low voice, If you don't want to die, I can fulfill your wish. As he spoke, Ningyu unleashed all of his aura and pressed down on Jinlan. Crack, crack. Under the pressure of Ningyu's aura, Jinlan's knees made cracking sounds. She was about to kneel down. His strength has actually increased again. Jinlan's face was filled with disbelief. Although Ningyu was strong in her sea of consciousness, there was a huge difference compared to now. If the previous Ningyu fought with the current Ningyu, he would lose miserably. Forget it. I won't lower myself to your level. It was only when Jinlan could no longer hold on that Ningyu retracted his aura. He waved at the scarred wolf outside the bamboo forest and said, Open the bamboo forest. I'm leaving. No problem. The scarred wolf did not dare to delay. It immediately broke the bamboo forest restriction and let Ningyu out. As for Jinlan, after struggling for a while, she followed behind Ningyu and walked out. After the battle with Ningyu, Jinlan had lost her trump card. Her current strength was limited. Even if she encountered a first-grade Earth Supreme or a half-step Earth Supreme, she would not be able to resist. Little friend, when will you help us resolve the viburnum poison? Outside the bamboo forest, the scarred wolf hesitated for a moment before asking the question in his heart. Don't worry, there are still 3 days. Ningyu would not resolve the viburnum poison for them so quickly. These were all 6th grade Earth, supreme, bloodthirsty wolves. If any of them recovered their strength, they would be terrifying existences. With Ningyu's current state, not to mention a 6th grade Earth sovereign realm bloodthirsty wild wolf, he wouldn't even be able to defeat a 1st grade Earth sovereign realm green wolf king. The scarred wolf's expression became a little ugly. He knew very well that Ningyu was doing this to extort them. Little friend, we've given you all the treasures of our bloodthirsty wolf clan. There are no more amazing treasures, the scarred wolf continued. Don't worry. Jin Yeming was killed here. I believe the Qinya Empire will soon send people over. Maybe they're already here. Ningyu waved his hand and said, Based on your estimation, what kind of experts will the Qinya Empire send over? It's hard to say. The scarred wolf shook his head and said, But I know that Jin Yeming is the Emperor's youngest daughter, and also the daughter he dotes on the most. Ningyu was silent. If that was the case, the situation was probably more dangerous. It was obviously not realistic to make the entire bloodthirsty wolf clan forget their memories. How troublesome. Ningyu took a deep breath and said to the scarred wolf, Do you have any good ideas that can solve this problem once and for all? Frame them. The scarred wolf had lived for so many years, so he was naturally very astute. If this matter couldn't be solved properly, their bloodthirsty wolf clan would also be affected. The emperor of the Qinya Empire could do something like exterminating a clan. Are there any other forces in the Void Realm that have enmity with the Qinya Empire? Ningyu asked. There's a power that has enmity with the Thousand Leaf Empire, but when he spoke up to this point, the scarred wolf paused for a moment before he continued. That power is extremely formidable, and even the Thousand Leaf Empire doesn't dare to rashly offend it. Get to the point, Ningyu said solemnly. Dan Lin. The scarred wolf took a deep breath and said, "That force is the Danlin." It said that there is a high, rank Earth Supreme Danlin inside. It's extremely terrifying. Danlin. Ning Yu automatically ignored the latter half of the scarred wolf's words. The strength of the Danlin didn't have much to do with him. In any case, the enmity between him and the Danlin couldn't be resolved. Rather than that, it was better to set off early, capture a Danlin, and have it kill Jean Yiming. "Let's go. Take me to Danlin's territory." Ning Yu didn't want to stay here. He stomped on the ground, wanting to leave. "Absolutely not. Those Danlin are extremely powerful. If we go now, we'll be courting death." The scarred wolf revealed a difficult expression. "If you can help us get rid of the poison in our bodies, we can go with you to Danlin's territory." "All right. Prepare a quiet place. I'll help you get rid of the poison in your bodies." After a moment of silence, Ningyu said, 3 leaf flower, vine root, cow horn hide, several medicinal ingredients came out of Ningyu's mouth. Chapter 1322. Chapter 1322. Chapter 1322. When the plan is out, the dagger is revealed. Green Wolf King, go find these herbs. "I'll give you 20 minutes," Scarface said in a deep voice. The mission of searching for medicinal ingredients was extremely important. It was related to whether or not they could smoothly resolve the green vine poison in their bodies, so they couldn't be careless. "No problem." The Green Wolf King nodded before turning around to leave. "Wait." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Let him stay. I can use him. You should go find those herbs." Then Ningyu pointed at a ferocious, bloodthirsty berserk wolf beside the scarred berserk wolf. All right. Although puzzled, the ferocious, bloodthirsty berserk wolf did not stay idle. He moved his feet and immediately left the area. Damn it! A hint of coldness flashed across the Green Wolf King's face, but he concealed it very well. "You come here." Ningyu was naturally aware of the Green Wolf King's little tricks. If it weren't for the fact that the Green Wolf King still had some use, Ningyu would have long since gotten rid of it. There was no way he would have let it live until now. When dealing with enemies, one had to forcefully suppress and kill them so that they wouldn't have any room to resist. "What is it?" The Green Wolf King suppressed the killing intent in its heart and came before Ningyu. "Adjust your mental state to the best. I can use you at any time." After leaving behind these words, Ningyu went to another place, sat down cross-legged, and closed his eyes to rest. The Green Wolf King's face turned ashen. Ningyu was clearly doing this to take revenge on him. This made him want to kill Ningyu even more. Ningyu couldn't care less about what the Green Wolf King was thinking. Right now, he was focused on recovering and adjusting his mental state to its peak. Sha! In the blink of an eye, 20 minutes had passed. The ferocious, bloodthirsty berserk wolf tore through space and appeared in this area. In its hand was a bag of holding. Whoosh! Throwing the storage bag to Ningyu, the bloodthirsty mad wolf said, "There are 4 sets of herbs inside." "All right, Green Wolf King. I'll give you these medicinal ingredients. Refine them in the shortest time possible. Remember, there can't be any impurities." After receiving the storage pouch, Ningyu picked out a few precious herbs and tossed them to the Green Wolf King. "If you dare to be careless and make a mistake, don't blame me." The Green Wolf King gritted its teeth in anger, but there was nothing it could do. In the bloodthirsty wolf clan, he had accidentally eaten a special fruit, causing his soul power to not be weak. Although he was far from being comparable to Ningyu, he was still capable of refining medicinal herbs. "You better not fall into my hands later." The Azure Wolf King divided the medicinal ingredients in the storage pouch into 4 equal portions and suspended them above its head before beginning to refine them. Buzz! The Green Wolf King was quite powerful. In just 5 minutes, It had completely refined one of the ingredients without any impurities. Let's begin. Let's start with you. Ning Yu received a portion of the pure medicinal liquid, and with a flicker of his body, he appeared behind the ferocious, bloodthirsty, mad wolf. Sit down, Ning Yu shouted in a low voice. The ferocious mad wolf king did not dare to delay and immediately sat down. Ning Yu's hands formed a series of hand seals before he suddenly slapped the ferocious mad wolf's back. Puchi! This slap from Ning Yu was very powerful and even contained a terrifying fluctuation of yuan qi. The ferocious mad wolf king was caught off guard and directly vomited a mouthful of blood. However, the color of the blood was not red but black. You dare injure me! Although the Green Wolf King was refining the medicinal ingredients, his gaze was fixed on Ning Yu. When he saw the ferocious Mad Wolf King vomit blood, he immediately gave up on refining the medicinal ingredients and attacked Ning Yu. Impudent! Before Ning Yu could make a move, the ferocious Mad Wolf King roared, "Stop! Do you want to die?" The ferocious Mad Wolf King was infuriated. He had indeed vomited blood, but the blood he vomited was black in color. In other words, his injuries were improving and the viridian poison in his body was being forced out. If he was disturbed at this time and Ning Yu flew into a rage, wouldn't he be finished? The Green Wolf King was instantly speechless after being berated by the ferocious Mad Wolf King. He did want to teach Ning Yu a lesson, but he did not dare to kill Ning Yu for the time being. What me? Hurry up and refine the medicinal ingredients. Ning, you definitely had a temper, he said coldly. I need a second batch of refined medicinal liquid in 5 minutes. After saying this, Ning Yu's right hand slapped the ferocious Mad Wolf King's back again and forcefully injected the refined medicinal liquid into the ferocious Mad Wolf King's body. PFFF, PFFF, PFFF. The ferocious Mad Wolf King only felt a sharp pain in his heart before vomiting several mouthfuls of black blood. After the 3-minute buffer period, the ferocious Mad Wolf King let out a long breath, and his face revealed a joyful expression. He could feel that all the viridian poison in his body had been completely expelled. The current him was filled with energy and could unleash the combat strength of a peak 6th grade sovereign. Next, Ning Yu did not care about what level of combat strength the ferocious Mad Wolf King had right now. He immediately started to help the scarred ferocious wolf neutralize the viridian poison. Because the viridian poison in the ferocious Mad Wolf King's body had been neutralized, the current Green Wolf King did not dare to be the slightest bit slow. He hurriedly threw the second batch of medicinal liquid to Ning Yu. Grabbing the second batch of medicinal liquid, Ning Yu sat cross-legged behind the scarred ferocious wolf, formed a seal with his right hand, and suddenly slapped out. Puchi! The scarred ferocious wolf vomited several mouthfuls of blood with the same action, and its aura rapidly strengthened. A few minutes later, the scarred ferocious wolf also recovered to its peak state, and the viridian poison in its body was completely neutralized. Following that, the 3rd and 4th bloodthirsty Mad Wolf King were treated equally by Ning Yu, helping them with all his strength. From start to finish, roughly an hour had passed. Whoosh! When Ning Yu slowly let out a turbid breath, the 4 Earth Supreme level bloodthirsty Mad Wolves all recovered to their peak state. Boom! 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 At this moment, the auras of the 4 bloodthirsty Mad Wolves soared into the sky. Extremely shocking. Ning Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest, not the slightest bit affected by the 4 terrifying auras. For a moment, the scene became strange. I feel that we should reconcile with the Qinya Empire. Before long, the Green Wolf King took a step forward and said in a low voice, "We didn't kill Golden Leaf Dream. It's a little unreasonable for us to take the blame like this." Ning Yu did not speak, nor did he make any response. Ancestors, I believe you are very clear about the strength of the Qinya Empire. If we become enemies with the Qinya Empire, we will definitely be annihilated by them. In order to convince the scarred ferocious wolf and the others, the Green Wolf King continued, "Right now, we can only bury the hatchet with the Qinya Empire. Otherwise, our bloodthirsty Mad Wolf clan will be finished." Cough, cough. At this moment, a thinner and smaller bloodthirsty Mad Wolf coughed twice and said, "I agree with the Green Wolf King. The bloodthirsty Mad Wolf clan cannot be annihilated because of us." Chapter 13:23. Resist. The skinny, bloodthirsty berserk wolf's words had already revealed Sima Zhao's intentions. However, Ningyu still looked calm and did not respond at all. "Do it!" The skinny, bloodlust Mad Wolf roared at the Green Wolf King. Whoosh! The Green Wolf King understood and charged at Ningyu at an astonishing speed. "Ningyu, I've always found you an eyesore. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll send you to hell today." The enraged Green Wolf King unleashed all of its aura toward Ningyu. The Green Wolf King didn't hold back in this attack. It was at an unprecedented peak. "Is this what you want?" You didn't look at the Green Wolf King. Instead, he looked at the scarred and ferocious wolves. The scarred and ferocious wolves opened their mouths as if they wanted to say something. However, they swallowed their words when they saw the determination in the other two wolves' eyes. "All right, I understand." Ningyu nodded. "What do you know? You won't be able to escape today." Right at this moment, the Azure Wolf King had already arrived beside Ningyu. Its huge front paw viciously swiped at Ningyu. Crack, crack. The wolf's claws whistled through the air, shattering the space around them. All sorts of spatial fragments flew everywhere in the area. "Why should I run?" The corner of Ningyu's lips curled up as he smiled at the Green Wolf King. "I wanted to keep you as my mount, but since you want to die so badly, I have no choice but to fulfill your wish." "Ah, kill." The Green Wolf King was enraged as its front paw descended. In the blink of an eye, it was only a finger away from Ningyu's head. Whoosh! A dark green branch suddenly shot out from the storage ring. The branch was extremely fast as it wrapped itself around the Green Wolf King's front paw. Crack! The Green Wolf King's front paw was torn off. Ah! A blood-curdling scream rang out from the Green Wolf King's mouth. "I gave you face, but you don't want it. You're courting death." Ningyu took a step forward and slashed down with the red demon sword in his hand. Hua! A massive sword projection detached itself from the red demon sword and slashed at the Green Wolf King's neck. After reaching the pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm, Ningyu's fighting prowess had improved greatly. Although he still couldn't contend against a grade 1 Earth sovereign, Ningyu could still bully an injured grade 1 Earth sovereign like the Green Wolf King. "Save me, ancestor!" The Azure Wolf King let out a hysterical howl just as it was about to be struck by the sword projection. "Brat, you're courting death." The skinny, bloodthirsty berserk wolf made his move. In an instant, he dashed out and transformed into his human form. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at the sword ray in midair. Rumble! This punch from the skinny, bloodthirsty berserk wolf was extremely powerful, directly splitting the sword light in half. "Patriarch, kill him." The Green Wolf King continued to howl. In fact, the Green Wolf King had already been injured by the sapling back in the hall, so he knew that he wasn't a match for Ningyu. The reason why he attacked was because the skinny berserk Wolf King wanted him to test Ningyu's strength. The Green Wolf King's original intention was to launch a sneak attack on Ningyu, not to fight Ningyu head-on. "It's fine." The skinny berserk Wolf King waved his hand confidently and said, "Brat, if I'm not wrong, the branch in your storage ring is at most equivalent to a grade 2 Earth sovereign. I'm a grade 6 Earth sovereign, so how are you going to fight me?" "Is that so?" Ningyu maintained his composure and said, "You're old. Your eyes are blurry and your senses are weak. You're not fit to live in this world anymore. Thump! For some reason, the scarred Berserk Wolf King and the ferocious Berserk Wolf King felt their hearts skip a beat when they heard Ning Yu's words. However, since the skinny Berserk Wolf King had the upper hand, they couldn't say anything and could only remain silent. Ha ha ha! The skinny Berserk Wolf King raised his head and laughed, then said coldly, "I'll show you if I'm old or not." With that, the aura of the skinny Berserk Wolf King soared into the sky and pressed down on Ning Yu. The skinny Berserk Wolf King's intention was clear. He wanted to crush Ning Yu with his aura so that he wouldn't hurt the branch in his storage ring. The skinny Berserk Wolf King was very interested in the branch and wanted to study it. Poochie! All of a sudden, the skinny Berserk Wolf King's eyes were filled with fear. He felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Swish! This change caused everyone, including the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf, to reveal an expression of shock. Sigh! You didn't believe me when I told you that you're old. You're indeed old. There's no longer a stage for you in this world. Ning Yu sighed softly. An old Berserk Wolf, like you should find a place to retire. Don't come out and embarrass yourself. Poochie! The skinny Berserk Wolf King spat out another mouthful of blood when he heard Ning Yu's words. At the same time he roared, "I'll tear you apart!" As he spoke, the skinny Berserk Wolf King pointed at the air and slapped Ning Yu with his hand. "I'll help you!" As soon as the skinny Berserk Wolf King charged out, another Berserk Wolf with bigger eyes also moved quickly and followed closely behind. "You're courting death." Ning Yu's eyes flashed with a bright light. At that moment, Ning Yu was completely enraged. He had already given the skinny Berserk Wolf a chance, but it did not know how to cherish it. Since that was the case, he could only send them on their way. Waving his hands, repeatedly Ning Yu bellowed, "Break!" Crack! Crack! As Ning Yu's words rang out, the expressions of the skinny Berserk Wolf King and the big-eyed Berserk Wolf King changed drastically as they stopped in midair. Oh no, the seal is about to break! The skinny Berserk Wolf King turned pale with fright and fear. How did it break? Did the Thousand Leaf Empire's experts appear nearby and discover that Jin Yiming died here? The big-eyed Berserk Wolf King unleashed his perception, wanting to probe the surroundings. Crack! 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 No one responded to them. The only thing that answered them was the continuous cracking sounds coming from their bodies. The scarred Berserk Wolf King and the ferocious Berserk Wolf King had ugly expressions on their faces. At the same time, they felt their hearts palpitate. Up until now, they were basically certain that Ning Yu had done something to their bodies to control the seal. Originally, they thought that they could do whatever they wanted and control Ning Yu's life after the poison in their bodies was neutralized. Who would have thought that Ning Yu had already prepared a backup plan? Ning Yu, I wonder if, seeing the dissatisfaction on the faces of the skinny Berserk Wolf King and the big-eyed Berserk Wolf King, the scarred Berserk Wolf King gritted his teeth and turned to Ning Yu for help. There's no need to say anything more. Ning Yu waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "I've made up my mind." Hearing that, the scarred Berserk Wolf King had a bitter expression. Everything was the skinny Berserk Wolf King and the big-eyed Berserk Wolf King's fault, which was why they ended up like this. Chapter 1324. Again. Arg, arg. In the air, the skinny, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and the big-eyed, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf let out hysterical cries. Even their bodies were beginning to rot, starting from their calves, then their waists, and finally their upper bodies. Soon, the skinny, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and the big-eyed, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf were left with only their heads. The cultivator who left the seal in your bodies was at least an Earth Supreme. Ning Yu frowned slightly as he looked at the miserable state of the bloodthirsty wolf and the others. Ever since Ning Yu cured the wolves of the virus poison for the first time, he knew that there was a powerful seal in their bodies. Ning Yu had guessed that once the seal broke, the scar-faced wolves would be annihilated, but he didn't expect it to be so terrifying. Even a 6th grade Earth Supreme Realm bloodthirsty wolf was corroded, leaving only its head behind. If not for the fact that the skinny bloodthirsty berserk wolf and the others had summoned their primordial spirits to protect their heads, they would have been long dead. Ning Yu, can you spare them? The scar-faced wolf gritted his teeth and begged Ning Yu for help, hoping that Ning Yu would show them mercy. Ning Yu shook his head. The seal in your bodies is beyond my imagination. Even if I use my full strength, I won't be able to cure them. The scar-faced wolf fell silent and even showed a look of despair. I'm curious. Didn't they say that Earth Supremes couldn't enter the empty secret realm? Why is there a seal left behind by an Earth Sovereign in your bodies? Ning Yu asked in puzzlement. A few decades ago, a high-level Earth Supreme came to the Qinya Empire. He took out 4 red fruits and forced us to swallow them. Sighing softly, the scarred, bloodthirsty wild wolf explained. After we swallowed the red fruit, we felt a change in our bodies. It was as if an invisible seal had appeared. Rumble. Just at this moment, the skinny, bloodthirsty berserk wolf and the big-eyed, bloodthirsty berserk wolf in midair exploded, their heads turning into a bloody mist. Go. The Green Wolf King had been paying attention to the changes happening to the skinny, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the others. When he saw the skinny, bloodthirsty mad wolf disintegrate into nothingness, he was shocked and hurriedly tore through the void, fleeing into the distance. If he didn't leave now, he would definitely be suppressed and killed by Ning Yu later. Xiao. However, the Azure Wolf King had only fled for a short while before a branch shot out from the storage ring and disappeared into the void. Ah! A blood-curdling scream, like a pig being slaughtered, came from the void. Bang! Then a figure fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground, no longer breathing. The sapling strength has really increased to the pinnacle 2nd grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Ning Yu muttered. Ever since the sapling entered the empty secret realm, it had been clamoring to come here to look for treasures. All the treasures taken out by the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf were devoured by the sapling. After devouring the treasures of the bloodthirsty mad wolf clan, the sapling finally reached the pinnacle 2nd grade Earth Sovereign Realm after a period of refinement. Ning Yu, I might need to sleep for a while to digest the energy in my body. Don't disturb me unless there's something important. The sapling's voice resounded in Ning Yu's mind. Then, the sapling fell into a deep slumber. Coming back to his senses, Ning Yu said to the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf, Let's go. Bring Golden Leaf Dream to Dan Zhong's lair. Although the sapling had fallen into a deep slumber, Ning Yu was not afraid. After all, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious mad wolf were both 6th grade Earth Sovereigns. With the 2 of them by his side, there shouldn't be much danger. Ning Yu, I wonder about the seal in our bodies. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf did not move immediately. Instead, he said hesitantly, Can you think of a way to break it? Ning Yu stopped in his tracks and stared at the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf with interest. You want me to break the seal for you before you attack me? I wouldn't dare. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave after being stared at by Ning Yu. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf had seen the miserable state of the skinny wolf and the big-eyed wolf. He did not want to experience that. If he angered Ning Yu, he would not be able to bear the consequences. I just want to ask, can the Thousand-Leaf Empire also control the seal in our bodies? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf asked cautiously. Don't worry. I've already added a 2nd seal to the seal in your bodies. Unless they find you and break the seal, they won't be able to restrain you. Ning Yu waved his hand, then his figure flickered and tore through the void, flying towards the outside world. At the same time, Ningyu's voice sounded in the area. "Bring Jean Yeming and Jean Lan as well." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu vanished completely. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious mad wolf did not dare to be negligent. One of them brought Jean Lan and the other Jean Yeming as they followed closely behind Ningyu. Swoosh! 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 3 figures moved quickly in the empty mystic realm. Upon closer inspection, the 3 figures were none other than Ningyu, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf, and the ferocious mad wolf. Among them, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious mad wolf were holding Jean Yeming and Jean Lan respectively. Dan Ping's lair is called Celestial Elixir Ridge. It's 3 hours away from here. Along the way, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf explained, "When the time comes, we can only stay in the periphery of Celestial Elixir Ridge. It's best if we don't enter the inner regions." Evidently, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf was wary of Celestial Elixir Ridge. Even with his cultivation as a grade 6 Earth Sovereign, he did not dare to set foot there. That showed how dangerous Celestial Elixir Ridge was. "I know what I'm doing." Ningyu waved his hand and said casually, "Don't underestimate Celestial Elixir Ridge. It's said that there are heavenly sovereigns there." Seeing Ningyu's expression, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf decided to warn Ningyu and tell Ningyu a secret. Swish! As expected, Ningyu's expression slightly changed when he heard the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's words. With their strength, they could only fight against a grade 6 Earth Sovereign at best. If they encountered a heavenly sovereign, only death awaited them. Let's get there first. Since he had decided to go to Celestial Elixir Ridge, Ningyu naturally would not back down. He wrapped his yuan qi around his ankles and immediately increased his speed. Although they were wary of Celestial Elixir Ridge, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious mad wolf could only follow behind Ningyu, since Ningyu had already gone there. Whoosh! However, Ningyu and the others had only traveled for an hour when they encountered a huge problem. The void in front of them suddenly cracked, and a few figures appeared in front of Ningyu and the others. People from the Qinya Empire. Seeing the sudden appearance of these cultivators, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's heart sank and his face turned pale. Chapter 1325. Chapter 1325. Chapter 1325. Crisis 5th. Great Earth Sovereigns weren't much. After all, both the scarred and ferocious bloodthirsty wolves were 6th grade Earth Sovereigns with extremely powerful strength. It wouldn't be difficult for them to deal with these 5th grade Earth Sovereigns. On the other hand, a 7th grade Earth Sovereign was a huge problem. In Ningyu's view, even if the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf and the ferocious, bloodthirsty wolf joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for a 7th grade Earth Sovereign. "I didn't expect it to be you guys." The 7th grade Earth Sovereign of the Thousand Leaves Empire coldly stared at the scarred wolves and hollered, "Abandoned clans, looks like you're tired of living." Not good. Hearing the reprimand of the 7th grade Earth Sovereign, before the scarred wolf could react, Ningyu's heart trembled. Evidently, this 7th grade Earth Sovereign of the Qinya Empire was activating the seal within the scarred wolf's body. In an instant, Ningyu thought of many things, and his face was extremely gloomy. If it wasn't for the suppression of his own seal, the scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf would have been in a miserable state by now. "Scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf, he's activating the seal in your body. Hurry up and respond." Suddenly, Ningyu's gloomy face became a little excited. Perhaps this was the best opportunity to kill a 7th grade Earth Sovereign. Respond. Ah, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf was no fool. It only took a moment to understand Ningyu's meaning. All sorts of screams came from the scarred wolves' mouths. In fact, The scarred ankle of the bloodthirsty mad wolf had even begun to rot. Seeing the scarred wolf's actions, Ning Yu's mouth twitched a few times. How terrifying! Because Ning Yu had left a seal in the scarred berserk wolf's body. He could tell that the scarred berserk wolf was only acting and not really in a miserable state. Jin Yi, what do you want? Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the scarred berserk wolf berated. I don't want to do anything. I just want to tell you that you can't provoke the Jin family. The man called Jin Yi's lips curled into a smile, and he said softly, Jin Yeming is already dead. I don't want to make things difficult for you. As long as you promise me one thing, I can help you conceal this matter and even frame the Dan Chi clan. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf felt a chill in his heart. He had a faint feeling that something was wrong, but in order to stall for time, he could only ask calmly, What is it? Haha, it's very simple. Recently, I've been cultivating a special technique, and I need the help of some honorable, bloodthirsty berserk wolves. Jin Yi smiled and said no more, no less. I need exactly 100,000. Boom! Jin Yi's words caused the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's face to turn extremely ugly. Although the bloodthirsty wolf clan was a large clan in the emptiness realm, losing 100,000 of them in one go was still a huge loss. Moreover, 100,000 supreme being bloodthirsty berserk wolves? Not to mention the bloodthirsty wild wolf clan in the emptiness realm. Even the bloodthirsty wild wolf clan outside the emptiness realm didn't have that many supreme being bloodthirsty wild wolves. Jin Yi, are you sure you're not joking? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf said in a solemn voice, If our bloodthirsty wild wolf clan had 100,000 supreme being bloodthirsty wild wolves, we would have conquered the emptiness realm long ago. I'm sorry, I'm not done yet. Shrugging his shoulders, Jin Yi continued, The 100,000 sovereign realm bloodthirsty berserk wolves that I'm talking about is just a general figure. For Earth sovereign realm bloodthirsty berserk wolves like you, a single one is equivalent to countless. What do you mean? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's face changed. Nothing much. I just want to borrow your hearts. As he spoke, Jin Yi stomped on the ground and his figure instantly shot out. Sizzle! Sizzle! Jin Yi's speed was terrifyingly fast. In an instant, he arrived beside the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and threw a punch at the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's chest. At that crucial moment, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf raised his right hand and clashed with Jin Yi's fist. Due to his massive size, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf had already taken on human form. At this moment, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf had taken on the appearance of a middle-aged man. Boom! When the two fists clashed, Jin Yi stood on the spot without moving, while the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf retreated. Uft! In the end, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf stopped and spewed a mouthful of blood. Not bad. Everyone says that the bloodthirsty mad wolf can challenge those of higher realms. I never expected that you would be able to withstand 50% of my strength. You're truly not simple. Jin Yi was astonished. He never expected the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf to be so powerful. One must know that he had secretly activated the seal to suppress the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's strength. If he didn't activate the seal, wouldn't the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf have a chance to confront him? The old ancestor truly has foresight to seal you survivors, allowing you to remain survivors for generations to come. Shaking his head, Jin Yi's eyes flickered. What a pity. All of you are destined to die under my sword today. Buzz buzz. Jin Yi flicked his wrist, and a black flying sword appeared in his hand. The black flying sword was extremely terrifying. Vigorous yuan qi vibrated on the blade, and it was about to leave Jin Yi's hand. Don't worry. I'll definitely let you have a taste of his heart's blood later. Jin Yi caressed the black flying sword, trying his best to calm it down. That flying sword actually has a consciousness in it, Ningyu's heart was in turmoil. From the flying sword in Jinyi's hand, Ningyu discovered some clues. Ningyu, who had discovered the clues, was extremely astonished. The consciousness in the red demon sword had dissipated. If the consciousness in the black flying sword appeared, then he would be in an irreversible situation. Something's not right. Suddenly, Ningyu's expression softened a little. This was because Ningyu discovered that the consciousness in the black flying sword was extremely weak. It needed a large amount of blood to recover completely. I have to stop him. Ningyu's expression darkened. He made up his mind to stop the scarred, frenzied wolf from being devoured no matter what. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Scarred, frenzied wolf, how confident are you that you can kill Jin-E with a sneak attack? Ningyu transmitted his voice to the scarred, frenzied wolf. He wanted to understand the difference between them. Jin-E is a rare talent of the Jin family. If I fight him head-on, there's no way I can win. If it's a sneak attack, I have a 10% chance of success, the scarred, frenzied wolf replied. 10%. Ningyu was dumbfounded. Even the scarred, frenzied wolf only had a 10% chance of success in a sneak attack. One could only imagine how powerful Jin-E was. 10% is a conservative estimate. It's the result of me and the ferocious, frenzied wolf attacking together. The scarred, frenzied wolf was worried. He felt that he had encountered something he could not defy. He was even in despair. Let me borrow your heart. At this moment, 2 beams of cold light shot out from Jinyi's eyes. The cold beams were extremely fast. One flew towards the scarred, frenzied wolf, while the other flew towards the ferocious, frenzied wolf. Buzz, buzz, buzz! Seeing the 2 beams of cold light flying out, the black flying sword jumped even more obviously, trying to break free from Jinyi's grasp. Chapter 13:26. Attack! I'll take this attack head-on and force Jin-E to fight you guys head-on. Then I'll make my move. Ningyu knew that at this moment, he had to remain calm and collected. Otherwise, with Jin-Yi's terrifying strength, he would have been dead for sure today. There would have been no chance of him surviving. No problem. The scarred wolf clenched his teeth. He was going all out just to survive. Roar! The scarred wolf let out a furious roar and revealed his true form. The stronger a bloodthirsty wolf was, the bigger their body would be. The scar-faced, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious, bloodthirsty mad wolf were extremely huge. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they covered the sky. Interesting. Jin-E did not forget to observe the scarred wolf while he was suppressing the black flying swords. Especially after seeing the huge size of the scarred wolf, he was a little surprised. Evidently, the scarred berserk wolf was about to break through his limit and reach the 7th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Luckily, you guys haven't taken that step yet. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Jin-E rejoiced. Since he needed the scarred wolf's heart blood, he could not fully activate the seal. As long as the seal was activated, the scarred wolf would explode and destroy the heart blood. Bang! Bang! In midair, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious, bloodthirsty mad wolf clashed head-on with the cold light. The result was out of Ningyu's expectations. The scarred wolf and the ferocious wolf suffered a crushing defeat in the first exchange and were forced to retreat. A decree refined by a Sky Supreme. Ning, you could see some clues from the brief exchange. After all, Ningyu was a Sky Supreme in his previous life. He had a deep understanding of such methods. Once one reached the Sky Supreme level, one could refine a decree and leave one's blood essence on it. The strength of the decree would change according to the amount of blood essence. The more blood essence, the more powerful the decree would be. According to Ningyu's estimation, the 2 decrees that Jin-E had taken out did not contain a lot of blood essence. Otherwise, the bloodthirsty frenzied wolf and the bloodthirsty frenzied wolf would not have been able to withstand it. The strength of these two decrees is only equivalent to a peak 7th grade human sovereign. Ning Yu's eyes turned, and his mind became active. If he could obtain the decree and the blood essence of a heavenly supreme, he might even be able to make a breakthrough and become a 7th grade human sovereign. Scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf, I'll teach you a chant. Try to subdue those two decrees. Ning Yu transmitted his voice to the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf. Whoosh! Hearing this, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's heart shuddered, and waves of shock rose in his heart. What kind of freak was Ning Yu? He even wanted to take away the supreme decree. Don't get distracted. According to the formula I taught you, there's a 50% chance of success. Ning Yu said in a deep voice. He did not want Scar and Bloodthirsty Wolf to be distracted and suffer heavy injuries. All right. At this point, the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and ferocious Berserk Wolf had no other choice but to believe in Ning Yu. Gulp! An obscure chant rang in the minds of the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and ferocious Berserk Wolf. Retrieve! Suddenly, the scarred, bloodthirsty Berserk Wolf opened its eyes, opened its mouth wide, and actually swallowed a supreme law decree into its mouth. Damn it! Seeing the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf's actions, Jin Yi's face turned extremely ugly. He immediately gave up on suppressing the black flying sword and formed hand seals with both hands, trying to retrieve the supreme decree. Jin Yi knew very well that once the supreme decree came into contact with the seal in the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf's body, a huge battle would definitely break out. At that time, the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf would definitely die. Swallow! Jin Yi had only taken a few steps when the ferocious Berserk Wolf also let out a loud roar, opened its mouth, and swallowed the supreme decree. Ah, I'm so angry! Jin Yi was so enraged that his nose was crooked. He did not expect the two bloodthirsty Mad Wolves to be so bold as to swallow the supreme decree. This situation was completely out of his expectations and caught him off guard. All right. Some were sad, some were happy. Ning Yu could not help but yell, "Hurry and leave!" Leave? Do you think you can leave? Jin Yi's hair danced in the wind. At that moment, he was like a god of war as he punched at the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf. Swoosh! Jin Yi's punch was ferocious and domineering, causing the sky to change color. Slash! Ning Yu wielded the red fiend sword and slashed out multiple sword gleams. There were many sword gleams, forming a terrifying sword gleam net in front of him. Ning Yu knew that Jin Yi's main target was not him, but the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and ferocious Berserk Wolf. In Jin Yi's eyes, Ning Yu was just a small fry that was not worthy of him going all out. Indeed, an unparalleled elite like Jin Yi did not need to go all out to kill Ning Yu. The aftermath of the attack alone was enough to make Ning Yu anxious. Crack, crack, crack. Although the sword gleam net in front of Ning Yu was very strong, it was far from being able to block the aftermath of Jin Yi's attack. The aftermath tore the sword gleam net apart and instantly arrived in front of Ning Yu. Phantom armor. At the critical moment, Ning Yu hurriedly took out the phantom armor, wanting to use it to block the aftermath of Jin Yi's attack. Crack! The shock wave hit the phantom armor, causing some cracks to appear on it. On the other hand, Ning Yu took a few steps back and two long marks appeared on the ground. Uft! Fresh blood spurted out, and Ning Yu's expression was extremely dark. Rumble! At the same time in midair, the scarred, bloodthirsty Mad Wolf and Jin Yi were already engaged in a fierce battle. Ning Yu had already told them to go all out and not hold back. Ning Yu would definitely ensure the safety of the seal in their bodies. With Ning Yu's confirmation, the two bloodthirsty Mad Wolves were enraged, and they were evenly matched with Jin Yi. You guys want to die, but I don't. Although the two bloodthirsty Mad Wolves were powerful, they were still not Jin Yi's opponent. The reason why Jin Yi was evenly matched with them was that he did not use his trump cards, nor did he use his strongest move. His strongest move was something that he would definitely not use unless it was a crucial moment. "Elder Jin, this is bad." Suddenly, a 5th grade Earth sovereign of the Jin clan yelled out. Hearing that voice, Jin Yi was startled and immediately turned his head. But this glance had instantly enraged Jin Yi. That's because he realized that the black flying sword had suddenly appeared before Ningyu and was confronting Ningyu. What made Jin Yi even more enraged was that Ningyu was slowly approaching the black flying sword and stretching his hand out, trying to grab hold of the black flying sword. "You dare to touch my flying sword!" No matter what, Jin Yi would never allow Ningyu to grab that weird flying sword. Back then, when he obtained that flying sword, he knew that he couldn't let anyone come in contact with it before he refined the intent in it. Otherwise, there might be an unpredictable change. Chapter 13:27. Chapter 13:27. Breakthrough. Ningyu cautiously approached the black flying sword, waiting for an opportunity to grab it with his hand. Ningyu made this move because he sensed that the black flying sword was extraordinary. It was as if the will within the black flying sword and the red demon's sword came from the same place, and it was not a fallen existence. As soon as this thought appeared, it lingered in Ningyu's mind, and he could not get rid of it. Screw it! Gritting his teeth, Ningyu suddenly reached out with his right hand and grabbed the hilt of the black flying sword. Ah! As soon as his right hand grabbed the flying sword, Ningyu screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Moreover, Ningyu's right hand underwent a terrifying change. The skin began to rot and fall off. Before long, only a skeleton was left of his right hand. Hiss! Ningyu's transformation caused the nearby Jin clan experts to retreat one after another. They had wanted to work together to snatch the black flying sword, but now they did not dare to act recklessly. What's going on? Ningyu was extremely calm at this moment, so calm that it was a little scary. Although only a skeleton was left of his right hand, Ningyu was not nervous. Instead, he was extremely calm. Only a rough estimation was left of his right hand, but in Ningyu's mind there were some scenes. The scenes in Ningyu's mind were similar to the scenes he had sensed from the red demon sword. The only difference was that the person holding the black flying sword was a woman, dressed in black, holding a black flying sword, fighting in all directions. This scene was so strange that even Ningyu had to deal with it carefully. Suddenly, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of blood. The black flying sword left his hand and pierced towards his heart. I can't believe it. This change was clearly out of Ningyu's expectation, and he could not help but curse. Ha ha ha. Great. A mere 6th grade supreme martial artist wants to catch the ancient demon sword. He's asking for death. Hee, if nothing goes wrong, he will become food for the demon sword. Food? You've underestimated the demon sword. How could the demon sword possibly devour a puny 6th grade sovereign? If I'm not wrong, the demon sword will definitely forcefully. Whoosh! Before the last cultivator could finish his sentence, he stopped abruptly. Suddenly, the situation changed. The black flying sword did not stab into Ningyu's chest. Instead, when it was a finger's length away from Ningyu's chest, it suddenly stopped. The reason why the black flying sword had stopped was not because of how powerful Ningyu was, but because the red demon sword was placed horizontally across Ningyu's chest, preventing the black flying sword from advancing. "It's you," a hoarse voice came from the black flying sword, sounding very desolate. "You've fallen." The same voice rang out from within the red demon sword. "Yes, I have fallen." The voice within the black flying sword seemed to be reminiscing about something. You could not interfere with their conversation, nor did he want to. However, The only thing that puzzled Ningyu was why the red demon's sword could still speak. Could it be that the powerful intent within the red demon's sword had not dissipated? It's not that intent, it's me. At this moment, the red demon's voice rang out in Ningyu's mind. The intent within the red demon's sword has long dissipated. I'm the one talking to it. Ningyu's eyes widened in surprise. The red demon was really bold. He actually dared to impersonate the intent within the red demon's sword. On second thought, Ningyu felt relieved. The red demon was the sword spirit born from the red demon's sword. He was the most suitable person to impersonate the red demon sword's intent. Is he your successor? He's a little weak. If he doesn't speed up his growth, I reckon, sigh. At this point, the intent within the black flying sword did not continue. Instead, it sighed softly and said, "Since he's your descendant, I'll fulfill his wish." As it spoke, a black cold luster flew out from the black flying sword. Whoosh! The speed of the cold luster was extremely swift. In the blink of an eye, it had entered Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Rumble! When the cold luster entered his sea of consciousness, Ningyu was greatly startled. That's because the energy contained in the cold luster was too robust. It was so robust that even his face had changed. What are you still standing there for? I'll compress your sea of consciousness to make it more secure. A berating voice resounded in Ningyu's mind. It will all depend on your fortune to break through to the 7th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Senior, Ningyu felt bitter. He already knew the intention of this intent. It was to sacrifice itself to fulfill his wish. Most of these intents were remnant wills that couldn't exist in the world for long. The moment these remnant wills dissipated, they would turn into nothingness and fuse with the heavens and earth. Spiritual transformation art. Since it couldn't be reversed, Ningyu could only sit down and circulate his mental cultivation technique to cultivate. Crack! As time passed, the black flying sword emitted cracking sounds, as if it was about to shatter. My flying sword! When Jin-E saw the changes to the black flying sword, he instantly flew into a rage. He was the one who had obtained the flying sword, so he had some understanding of the intent within it. His original intention was to find the bloodthirsty wild wolf's heart blood to refine his intent and recover it a little. As long as his intent recovered, he would return to the ancestral land and have the experts there set up an array to help him refine the energy. However, he never expected that he would be intercepted by a 6th grade Earth Sovereign, which made him furious. All of you will die today. The enraged Jin-E had clearly lost all reason. He forcefully threw 2 punches, forcing back the scarred and ferocious wolves. Then he turned into a blur and charged at Ningyu. Shit! When the 2 wolves saw Jin-E charging out, their expressions drastically changed. They immediately increased their speed to the limit and chased after him. Unfortunately, the scarred and ferocious bloodthirsty wolves were half a beat too slow. Before they reached Ningyu, Jin-E had already arrived in front of Ningyu. Die! He threw out a punch that carried an extremely violent yuan qi fluctuation towards Ningyu's head. Jin-E was furious. He wanted to smash Ningyu's brains out. Rumble! At this moment, a huge palm appeared above Ningyu's head and grabbed at Jin-E. Damn it! The sudden change was out of Jin-Ye's expectation. He cursed inwardly and immediately turned his head to escape. Crack! However, Jin-Ye's speed couldn't keep up with the speed of the huge palm. He had only taken a few steps when the huge palm caught up to him. The huge palm suddenly pressed down and grabbed Jin-Ye's neck. It lifted Jin-E like a little chick and threw him before Ningyu. I've already placed a seal on his body. This is the last thing I can do for you. You'll have to walk your own path in the future. Boom! As the figure landed, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes. Then, a terrifying aura rushed out from Ningyu's head. At this moment, Ningyu had taken another step forward. Chapter 1328. Primordial Spirit Battle Body Boom. Ning Yu took a step forward. His aura soared into the sky and pressed down on Jean E in a frenzy. Uft! Jean E had already been sealed by the giant hand, and his aura had dissipated. Now that he was being attacked by Ning Yu's aura, he naturally could not withstand it. Jean E spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His face was filled with terror. "Let me go, and I can give you a great opportunity." Jean E roared, wanting Ning Yu to spare his life. What great opportunity! Ning Yu did not kill Jean E right away. Instead, he asked, "Phew." Seeing that Ning Yu did not kill him right away, Jean E breathed a sigh of relief and said hurriedly, "As long as you come back to the Qinya Empire with me, I can make you the son-in-law of the Qinya Empire. Arg." Crack! Jean E let out a scream, like a pig being slaughtered, before he could finish his sentence. Ning Yu lifted his right foot and stomped on Jean Yi's knee, crushing it directly. "Get to the point." Ning Yu did not want to waste time with Jean Yi. He said coldly, "It's useless to talk about this. I promise to send you on your way." Jean Yi could not help but shiver when he heard that. In the Jean family of the Qinya Empire, Jean Yi was a genius of his generation. He was one of the geniuses with the highest hopes of becoming a sky supreme in the Qinya Empire. Now that he was being stepped on by Ning Yu and even his knee was crushed, he felt that it was unrealistic. There's a treasure land in the Qinya Empire. In a while, all the major forces will gather there. There will be all sorts of geniuses there to fight for the opportunity. Jean Yi did not dare to fool Ning Yu anymore. His teacher said, "If you pledge your allegiance to the Jean family, we can give you a spot and let you." This time Ning Yu was clearly enraged. Before Jean Yi could finish, he lifted his right foot and stomped on Jean Yi's head. Cultivation! Right at this moment, something strange happened. Jean Yi was a 7th grade Earth sovereign with a powerful primordial spirit. Although his head was crushed by Ning Yu, his primordial spirit still tore through space in an attempt to escape. Where are you going? How could Ning Yu give him the chance to escape? Ning Yu flicked his sleeve and threw out a flag. 10,000 ghosts, holy flag. In the 3-stone cave, the holy flag of 10,000 ghosts was almost destroyed. However, Ning Yu forcibly stored it into his storage ring and nurtured it using a secret technique to preserve it. The 10,000 ghost sacred flag contained the souls and primordial spirits of many martial artists. The more primordial spirits it had, the stronger its combat power would be. Ever since Ning Yu's strength increased, the 10,000 ghost sacred flag could no longer help him. Now that there was a chance to devour Jean Yi's primordial spirit, Ning Yu would not let it go to waste. Jean Yi was a 7th grade Earth sovereign. Once the myriad ghost sacred flag devoured his primordial spirit, it would undergo a transformation. Ah, no. Jean Yi screamed and tried to break free from the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. However, his primordial spirit was extremely weak and he was being chased by Ning Yu. Therefore, it only took a few minutes before he was completely devoured by the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. Crackle! As expected, Ning Yu's guess was right. The 10,000 ghost sacred flag had indeed undergone a transformation. Crackling sounds were constantly coming from the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. The sound was extremely strange and terrifying. How much will the primordial spirit of a 7th grade Earth sovereign transform it to? Ning Yu frowned. His eyes were fixed on the 10,000 ghost sacred flag. He did not get distracted. The 10,000 ghost sacred flag was a terrifying artifact. According to legend, the original form of the 10,000 ghost sacred flag was a celestial king sacred flag. Although it would take a long time for the 10,000 ghost sacred flag to transform into a celestial king sacred flag, Ning Yu did not dare to let his guard down. Even if it could not transform into a celestial king sacred flag, After today, the 10,000 ghost sacred flag would become Ning Yu's handy weapon. Rumble. As time passed, the sounds coming from the 10,000 ghost sacred flag grew louder. In the end, the primordial spirits and soul forces broke through their limits and charged out. Shit! The change had obviously exceeded Ning Yu's expectation. However, just as Ning Yu was about to stop them, he came to a stop. The primordial spirits and soul forces in midair began to merge together. The merging of thousands of primordial spirits and soul forces was indeed a terrifying scene. This is the primordial spirit battle physique. Staring at the changes in the sky, Ning Yu's mouth opened slightly, and an almost undetectable voice came from his mouth, filled with shock. The primordial spirit battle physique was a terrifying existence formed by the merging of primordial spirits and soul forces. In his previous life as a heavenly supreme, Ning Yu had seen 1 or 2 primordial spirit battle physiques. Even as a heavenly supreme, he did not dare to get too close to them, fearing that he would be injured by their blood chi. No, it's not the real primordial spirit battle physique. It's the embryonic form. All of a sudden, Ning Yu seemed to have discovered something and exclaimed. The primordial spirit battle physique was extremely terrifying. If it really produced a terrifying primordial spirit battle physique, even Ning Yu would have to avoid it. Even the weakest primordial spirit battle physique had the strength of an Earth Supreme. The strength of this embryonic primordial spirit battle physique should be at the pinnacle 9th grade human sovereign realm. Staring at the embryonic primordial spirit battle physique, Ning Yu frowned and said, if it can merge with a few more primordial spirits, it might evolve to the Earth Supreme realm. Ning Yu's gaze moved and slowly swept across the experts of the Jin clan. Whoosh! The experts of the Jin clan avoided the gaze of the Ning clan, not daring to look at them directly. Even someone as powerful as Jin Yi died here and was refined into something that looked like the primordial spirit battle physique, not to mention them. Ning Yu's gaze stopped at the face of a 5th grade Earth Sovereign. The 5th grade Earth Sovereign glared at Ning Yu and coldly barked, "You're finished. You're doomed to die if you dare to touch the people of the Jin clan." As he spoke, the 5th grade Earth Sovereign took out a talisman and engraved a line of words with his spiritual energy. Thereafter, he tore space apart and was about to send Jin Yi away. "You want to send your heart to me?" Ning Yu's face was emotionless as he said, "Because of your foolish action, all the experts of the Jin clan will die today." Ha ha ha. The 5th grade Earth Sovereign raised his head and laughed. "All of them will die? I've already sent the message. I believe that the monarch will be guarding the exit. As long as you dare to leave, you're destined to be captured by the Jin clan. Our Jin clan is Puff." While the 5th grade Earth Sovereign was roaring, the scarred berserk wolf tore through space and slapped the 5th grade Earth Sovereign's face with its huge hand. Pa! A bright red palm print, accompanied by a crisp sound, resounded in the area. You. The 5th grade Earth Sovereign looked as if he had seen a ghost. He looked at the scarred wolf and said in fear, "You dare to attack our Jin clan?" "Kill him." "Ning, you didn't want to talk nonsense with this fellow." The scarred wolf was a 6th grade Earth Sovereign. It was a piece of cake for him to deal with a puny 5th grade Earth Sovereign. Crack! The scarred wolf slightly exerted force and broke the 5th grade Earth Sovereign's head. Whoosh! Chapter 1329. Secret. Don't you think that it's a little too late to leave now? Ning Yu stood on the spot with his eyes brimming with vigor, but he did not make a move. Whoosh! Although Ning Yu did not make a move, the primordial spirit battle physique had already made a move. Once it made a move, it would be shocking. The primordial spirit battle physique swiftly caught up to the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign in the blink of an eye, with a terrifying, killing aura enveloping him. "What are you trying to do?" The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign panicked. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape from the primordial spirit battle physique. Floating in the sky, the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign looked at Ningyu and said, "I can tell you some secrets, but you have to let me go." The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign was clear that the primordial spirit battle physique would listen to Ningyu's orders. As long as Ningyu gave an order, he would definitely be devoured. As long as Ningyu didn't give an order, the primordial spirit battle physique wouldn't kill him. The crucial point was Ningyu. "I have already erased the things on the talisman. Now you can write something." Ningyu did not reply to the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign's words. He took the talisman from the scarred wolf and said, "Jin Yeming and Jin Yi's deaths should be related to Danzhong." The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign was smart, so he instantly knew what Ningyu was thinking. Framing. Ningyu wanted to frame Jin Yi and Jin Yeming's deaths on Danzhong and make Danzhong fight with the Jin family, killing with a borrowed knife. A terrifying thought flashed in the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign's mind. "I'll write it." Gritting his teeth, the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign separated a wisp of his primordial spirit and wrote something on the talisman. Receiving the talisman, Ningyu examined it seriously. After confirming that there was nothing wrong with the talisman, Ningyu threw it into the sky and pointed his finger out. Crack! In an instant, the talisman shattered and sparkles of light tore through space and disappeared. "Can you let me go now?" The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign's face was pale. In order to survive, he had betrayed the Jin clan and sent them false information. Once this matter was known by the higher-ups of the Jin family, he would definitely suffer. "It's not that I can't let you go, but I want to know if your Jin family has any orthodoxy in the Void Mystery Land." Ningyu pondered for a moment before asking one last question. He wanted to know everything about the Jin family in the Void Secret Realm. The space inside the Emptiness Secret Realm is very special. It's fine to stay here for a short period of time, but it's very difficult to stay here for a long time. The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign seemed to have calmed down and said, "The Jin clan doesn't have any orthodoxy in the Void Secret Realm, but they do have a stronghold. Every time a powerful Earth Sovereign enters the Void Secret Realm, they would head to that stronghold." "What's in the stronghold?" Ningyu asked without batting an eyelid. He wanted to be a great pirate. Heavenly treasures, various divine medicines, and terrifying demonic beasts. The fifth-grade Earth Sovereign did not conceal anything. Restricted by the rules of the Void Secret Realm, even a powerful clan like the Jin clan couldn't leave any orthodoxy behind. However, they were unwilling to give up. Every time they entered the Void Secret Realm, they would head to a place and build a huge palace. Rumor had it that the palace not only contained all kinds of heavenly treasures, but also an extremely powerful creature. As for whether it was true or not, the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign had no way of knowing. A palace? Ningyu frowned. He was wondering if he should head to that place to have a look. Right now, he lacked all kinds of origin crystals and elixirs. If he could get his hands on the magical treasures and elixirs in the palace, it would be of great help to his future cultivation. Now's the time. Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign's eyes shot out a cold light, and his yuan shin quickly rushed out. Whether he could kill Ningyu or not, it all depended on this. If he succeeded, he would escape from the Void Secret Realm and find another expert to possess. If he failed, he would die. Humph. Facing the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign, Ningyu did not make a move. Instead, he let out a cold snort. Swish, swish. Although Ningyu did not make a move, two figures did. The first to make a move was the Yuan Shun battle physique. He quickly rushed out to stop the fifth-grade Earth Sovereign. The second to make a move was the scarred Berserk Wolf. He would not allow anyone to kill Ningyu, because if Ningyu died, the seal in his body would become unstable, and he would be controlled by the Jin clan again. The scarred berserk wolf was now on Ningyu's side. Being controlled by Ningyu was better than being controlled by the Jin clan's experts. Pucci, both the Yuan Shen battle physique and the scarred berserk wolf were stronger than the 5th grade Earth Sovereign. Naturally, the 5th grade Earth Sovereign would not be able to escape from their joint attack. The scarred berserk wolf threw a punch at the 5th grade Earth Sovereign's Yuan Shen, causing it to tremble. Swish! The Yuan Shen battle physique opened its mouth and devoured the 5th grade Earth Sovereign's Yuan Shen. Not only was the Yuan Shen battle physique powerful, but it also had a fatal restraining effect on the Yuan Shen. After devouring the Yuan Shen of Jin Yi and the 5th grade Earth Sovereign, the Yuan Shen battle physique swept its gaze across the Jin clan's experts. You can't kill us. Our Jin clan has sent 2 forces into the Void Secret Realm, and our group is the weakest. The other 5th grade Earth Sovereign exclaimed in fear, fearing that Ningyu would make a move and devour him with his primordial spirit battle physique. Tell me about the other group. Ningyu did not make a move immediately. The Jin clan's experts before him were already heaven-defying, and Jin Yi was even a 7th grade Earth Sovereign. But there was another group that was stronger than Jin Yi. For a moment, Ningyu pondered a lot. The death of Jin Yeming shouldn't have caused the Jin clan to send out so many experts. According to Ningyu's estimation, there should be a peerless treasure in the Void Secret Realm. The other group is all peerless experts. The weakest among them is a 5th grade Earth Sovereign, while the strongest is an 8th grade Earth Sovereign. The tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign immediately explained, "There are 2 reasons why we entered the Void Secret Realm. First, we came for Jin Yeming's death. Second, we came for a treasure in a danger ground. As for the use of that treasure, I have no idea." Treasure, danger ground, Ningyu murmured. With his eyes closed, no one knew what Ningyu was thinking about. The Void Secret Realm was extremely mysterious and boundless. No one knew how big it was. It was a place that even heavenly sovereigns couldn't explore, not to mention Ningyu. "Can you let us go?" 10 minutes later, the taller 5th grade Earth Sovereign couldn't hold it in any longer and braced himself. "We already know that Jin Yeming wasn't killed by you but Danming. As long as you let us go, we guarantee that we won't mention anything about you. Is that so?" Ningyu did not answer the tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign. He stood on the spot, opened his eyes, and looked at the tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign. Yes, the tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign did not dare to look Ningyu in the eye, so he turned his head away. He turned his head and said, "You better not let me go. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it." Chapter 1330. Dancian Ridge. In that case, open your mind and allow me to leave a strand of soul force in your sea of consciousness. Without any expression on his face, Ningyu shot out a cold light from his body and flew towards the tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign. Xiao, looking at the cold light that was approaching him, the 5th grade Earth Sovereign's face turned pale. He was very clear that the cold light flying towards him was Ningyu's soul force. Ningyu wanted to leave his soul force in his sea of consciousness. In other words, he wanted to completely control his life and death. As long as there was soul power in his sea of consciousness, then he would be finished, completely finished, and would never be able to rise again. Split up and run. In the blink of an eye, the tall 5th grade Earth Sovereign made a decision. Escape. They still had many Earth Sovereigns on their side, while Ningyu's side only had the scarred and ferocious, bloodthirsty wolves. If they split up, there was still a chance of survival. Voila! In an instant, the cultivators of the Jin family all used their secret arts to tear the void and flee into the distance. "You're not going after him?" The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf said hesitantly when he saw the Jin family members fleeing and Ningyu not doing anything. The scarred mad wolf didn't want the experts of the Jean family to escape because it would be a disaster for them, a disaster that couldn't be avoided. Their enemy was not only the Jean clan, but also the main bloodline of the bloodthirsty mad wolves outside the Kongwu secret realm. It's fine. Ning Yu waved his hand, signaling Scarface and Bloodthirsty Wolf to calm down. How can I remain calm at a time like this? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf slandered him. If he didn't trust Ning Yu, he would have attacked him already. Ah, what the hell is that? My eyes. No. My leg is an absolute death barrier. Quickly retreat. Pooh. Not long after, various shouts and shouts filled the entire area. The warriors of the Jean family were in big trouble. There seemed to be a formation set up in this area by some powerful person. If they dared to take even half a step into it, they would definitely die. Senior. The entire area had turned into a living hell. Only the place where Ning Yu was standing remained unscathed. Ning Yu was disappointed. In an instant, he understood everything. The one who set up the formation was not a stranger, but the will inside the black flying sword that had helped him advance to the 7th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Now, it had even set up a spiritual array to kill so many experts of the Jean clan. Become stronger. There will always be a battle. Ning Yu would never forget the words that were left in his mind before it dissipated. These words were engraved in his heart. Essence Soul Battle Body. Devour all their essence souls. Don't leave any traces behind. Ning Yu immediately sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Whoosh! Whoosh! The primordial spirit battle body and the scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf moved. They swiftly dealt with 2 5th-grade Earth Sovereigns in the blink of an eye. For the experts of the Jean clan, death might be the best relief. The scarred berserk wolf did not fight with the primordial spirit battle body. They had a clear division of labor. He killed the experts of the Jean clan, while the primordial spirit battle body devoured the essence souls. They were like fiends that swept away the clouds. Wherever they passed, the experts of the Jean clan would wail. No one knew if it was relief or pain. Whoosh! Whoosh! Soon, the Yuan spirit battle body and the scarred berserk wolf returned. They floated beside Ning Yu without saying a word. Right now, Ning Yu was in a strange state. He seemed to be sleeping, but also comprehending the Tao. Phew! Not long after, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes and slowly breathed out a mouthful of turbid air. To be honest, the state he was in earlier was very strange. It made him feel like his essence soul had left his body. Forget it. I'll think about it later. Shaking his head, Ning Yu said to the scarred berserk wolf, "Bring Jean Yeming and Jean Lan to the celestial pellet ridge." The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's face darkened. They had just experienced a huge battle and had yet to completely recover to their peak condition. Yet they were going to continue attacking? Furthermore, there was already news that Jean Yeming had died in the hands of Dan Ming. It was a little inappropriate for him to risk his life at Dan Immortal Ridge. It's fine. Let's go to the periphery of Dan Immortal Ridge first. Ning Yu waved his hand, signaling the scarred wolf not to worry. You'd better not go to Dan Immortal Ridge, Jean Lan said coldly at this moment. Why? Ning Yu frowned and asked in confusion. Dan Immortal Ridge has a peerless pill puppet. You can't afford to offend it, said Jean Lan. Jean Lan came from an ancient family in the Thousand Leaf Empire, so he knew some secrets. The Celestial Pellet Ridge wasn't simple. Not only was there a peerless pill puppet, but there were also heavenly sovereigns or even terrifying existences that surpassed heavenly sovereigns. Jean Lan did not want to take the risk. She still wanted to return to the Thousand Leaf Empire alive. Tell me in detail. Ning Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Jean Lan with interest. During the battle with the Jean family's experts, Jean Lan was sealed by the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf, so she was not affected. However, Jean Lan had seen the battle. Although Ningyu was very talented, Dan Immortal Ridge was not an easy place to enter. Even the periphery was guarded by powerful pill puppets. Once outsiders stepped into Dan Immortal Ridge, terrifying things would happen. In short, just listen to me. Don't go to Dan Immortal Ridge. Jean Lan did not want to say more. What she learned was confidential and could not be mentioned to others easily. I won't force it. Let's go. Ning Yu did not force Jean Lan. He waved his hand and was the first to rush toward Dan Immortal Ridge. Swish! Swish! Behind Ning Yu, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf lifted Jean Lan and followed, closely behind Ning Yu. The ferocious mad wolf did not stay idle either. He carried Jean Yeming's corpse and followed, closely behind. Damn it! You can't go. Dan Immortal Ridge is terrifying. Along the way, Jean Lan kept shouting, hoping that Ningyu would stop. But every time Ningyu asked, she would shut up, since she was unwilling to speak the truth. Ningyu did not say anything else. He ordered the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf to seal her mouth to prevent her from making a ruckus. After sealing her mouth, Jean Lan became well-behaved. Hi! After traveling at full speed for some time, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly tore open the void and entered. Upon seeing Ningyu's actions, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the others also tore open the void and disappeared. What's going on? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf was puzzled. The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf knew very well that they would enter Dan Immortal Ridge's territory in a short while. Before entering Dan Immortal Ridge, Ningyu's appearance had indeed shocked him. The one in front is Kuin Peng perfected. He entered the void mystic realm with me. Ningyu pointed to the old man not far away and said in a deep voice, He entered the void mystic realm with you? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf was alarmed and hurriedly looked over. Not far away, an old man was lying on the ground, knocking left and right. No one knew what he was doing. Crack! Chapter 1331. A humanoid creature. Who dares to behave atrociously here? The humanoid creature's powerful aura pressed down on Kuin Peng. Uft! Kuin Peng coughed out a mouthful of blood under the pressure of the powerful aura. He could not help but kneel on the ground. I have a token. Kuin Peng squeezed out a few words. Swish! The humanoid creature retracted his aura and said, Give me the token. Kuin Peng took out a token and handed it to the humanoid creature. A token is needed to enter the Celestial Pellet Ridge. In the distance, Ningyu frowned and asked the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf beside him. No, a token is not needed to enter the Celestial Pellet Ridge, but outsiders will be killed by the Guardians if they dare to enter. The scarred wolf was also confused. He had lived in the Void Realm for a long time and had never heard of a token. At the same time, the scarred wolf looked at Ningyu. Isn't Kuin Peng Sage your master? Why don't you know anything about him? Don't look at me. He's not my master. We have a feud. Ningyu knew what the scarred wolf was thinking. He shook his head and said, If we hadn't been separated when we entered the Void Realm, I would have been killed by him. I would have been better off being killed. The scarred wolf cursed inwardly. That humanoid creature is at most a grade 4 Earth Supreme. Capture him and interrogate him. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu decided to capture the humanoid creature. Since he was here, there was no reason for him to leave, especially since Kuin Peng Sage had found a way to enter the Celestial Pellet Ridge. It meant that there were treasures in the Celestial Pellet Ridge. Otherwise, with Kuin Peng Sage's cautious personality, why would he enter the Celestial Pellet Ridge? That's not a good idea, right? The scarred wolf hesitated. There's a peerless elixir puppet in the Celestial Pellet. I'm afraid it'll be bad for us. Do you sense the aura of a heavenly sovereign here? Ningyu asked, or perhaps you sense the aura of a high-rank Earth sovereign here? After hearing Ningyu's words, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf felt a little awkward. To be honest, he didn't sense the aura of a heavenly sovereign or a high, rank earth sovereign. To be precise, Dan Immortal Ridge was a little strange and unusual today. At this moment, the humanoid creature opened the barrier and let Kuin Pengdaoist in. "Do it," Ningyu said to the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf. Whoosh! The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf had no choice but to advance cautiously. "Who is it?" The senses of humanoid creatures were extremely sharp. Before the scarred wolf even got close to him, he had already noticed it. "This is Dan Immortal Ridge. Who dares to barge in?" The humanoid creature roared. "Barge my ass." Since he'd been discovered, the scarred berserk wolf decided to let go. He unleashed the aura of a 6th grade Earth sovereign and pressed it against the humanoid creature. Ka-ka! The humanoid creature was at most a 4th grade Earth supreme. So how could it withstand the aura of the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf? He kept retreating, and at the same time a long spear appeared in his hand, stabbing towards the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf. Crack! The scarred berserk wolf's right arm struck out and broke the spear into two. Then the scarred berserk wolf grabbed the humanoid creature's shoulder with his tail and flew towards Ningyu. Along the way, the scarred berserk wolf kept casting seals in an attempt to completely seal the humanoid creature. After struggling for a while, the humanoid creature was finally captured by the scarred berserk wolf and brought to Ningyu. "Intruders of Dan Immortal Ridge, die." The humanoid creature glared at Ningyu and said coldly, "Interesting, no consciousness. A semi-finished product in the pellet." Ningyu said with a frown. A semi-finished product was the kind of existence that had no consciousness and needed other pellets to inject their consciousness into their minds. Whatever intent was instilled, these semi-finished pellets would react accordingly, erase the consciousness in his mind. As long as a pellet appears, he will launch a powerful attack. Ningyu thought about it and decided to keep the humanoid creature. Who knows, it might be of some help. No problem. The scarred berserk wolf was very experienced in this. He dragged the humanoid creature away from the area. This place was very close to the periphery of Dan Immortal Ridge, so the scarred berserk wolf didn't dare to erase the humanoid creature's consciousness here. If a peerless pellet puppet appeared in Dan Immortal Ridge, they could make use of it to escape. Crack! Not long after the scarred berserk wolf left, the periphery of Dan Immortal Ridge caved in and 4 young pellet puppets appeared. Most of them were in the 8th grade human sovereign realm. Among them, there was a man in blue who was at the pinnacle of the 9th grade human sovereign realm. "Where's the semi-finished pellet puppet?" An 8th grade human sovereign pellet puppet looked around and frowned. "Our Dan Immortal Ridge is empty right now. Don't let anything happen to it. Go and take a look around. You must find that semi-finished pellet puppet," the man in blue said in a deep voice. Yes, the figures of the other 4 men flashed and flew in different directions. Unfortunately, the 8th grade human sovereign pellet puppet was flying in the direction where Ningyu was. "Take him down." Ningyu carefully lurked and ordered the ferocious, bloodthirsty mad wolf. Boom! When the 8th grade human sovereign Dan puppet approached, the ferocious, bloodthirsty berserk wolf suddenly tore through the void, giving him a dull thud. Then it silently brought him into the void. "Who are you?" This pill puppet had some backbone, and his legs didn't turn to jelly. Instead, he berated. "You'd better be honest about the current situation of Dan Immortal Ridge. Otherwise, I'll show you what cruelty is." Ningyu said in a deep voice. Ningyu already knew that the pellet puppet was plotting something big, so he didn't have any qualms about meeting him. "Humph. You want to know the secret of Dan Immortal Ridge? Dream on." The pellet puppet snorted. He had no intention of telling Ningyu. "Pa, Ning, you didn't want to waste time with him. He stretched out his right hand and slapped the pellet puppet's head. Buzz! Ning Yu exerted his strength and executed his memory-devouring cultivation technique. Not long after, Ning Yu devoured all the pellet puppet's memories. After devouring the memories, Ning Yu took a deep breath, and a fiery look appeared in his eyes. What a great opportunity! Ning Yu was excited. Through the pellet puppet's memories, Ning Yu learned that the strongest person in Dan Immortal Ridge was only a peak 5th grade human sovereign. This situation was advantageous to them. Robbery. These 2 words appeared in Ning Yu's mind. The pellet puppet was good stuff. The Yuan Qi pellet could replenish one's energy and be used for cultivation. The soul pellet could be devoured to strengthen one's soul. Let's get rid of him and wait for the scarred berserk wolf to return. We'll go to Dan Immortal Ridge. Chapter 1332. Chapter 1332. Chapter 1332. The Great Rock Taoist. Why is there one missing? At the same time, 3 pill puppets returned from 3 different directions and landed beside the blue-robed man. The blue-clothed man frowned as if he had noticed something. Someone wants to harm Dan Immortal Ridge. In an instant, the blue-clothed man thought of a possibility. What? Hearing the blue-clothed man's words, the other 3 pill puppets revealed shocked expressions. The current Dan Immortal Ridge was extremely empty. The upper echelons of the Dan clan had left with all their might, leaving only the elder Dan clan. If someone were to attack now, the consequences would be unimaginable. What's the hurry? The blue-clothed man maintained his composure. The celestial pellet ridge has an array. Even a high-rank Earth sovereign would be obstructed by their ray. We just need to stay inside and wait for the elders to return. Now listen to my orders. Quickly return to Dan Immortal Ridge and prepare to open it at any time. Oh no! Before the blue-robed man could finish his sentence, his expression changed greatly, and he hastily retreated. However, the speed at which the blue-clothed man retreated was clearly very slow. The space above his head suddenly split open, and a hand appeared, grabbing at his neck. Let's go. The blue-clothed man was extremely decisive. Although the large hand was about to grab his neck, he still gave the order. Go. The other 3 Dan Xiang understood and hurriedly scattered in all directions. Pucci! 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 However, it was obviously too late for them to escape now. Another huge palm appeared and slammed towards their heads, turning them into meat patties. Buzz! After dealing with the small shrimp, Ning Yu tore the void and appeared in front of the blue-robed man. Bring us to Dan Immortal Ridge. Ning Yu did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Humph! You must be dreaming if you want to enter Dan Immortal Ridge. The man in blue snorted coldly and did not say anything. Ha ha! You're quite stubborn. Ning Yu slapped him on the cheek, knocking out 2 of his teeth. I'll ask you one last time. Are you bringing it or not? The reason why Ning Yu wanted the blue-clothed man to bring him into Dan Immortal Ridge was because he was afraid of Dan Immortal Ridge. Even though the peerless pill puppet of Dan Immortal Ridge was long gone, he still had to be careful not to be trapped by certain restrictions. Ha ha ha! I will definitely not bring you in unless you defeat me. You piece of trash! The blue-clothed man was extremely unbridled. He laughed wildly and said, Do you dare to have a fair battle? A fair fight with you? Do I look like a fool to you? As he spoke, Ning Yu sent out a few more kicks. Each kick landed on the blue-clothed man's chest, breaking several ribs. Kill him! Ning Yu took out the red demon sword and slashed at the blue-robed man's neck. Wait! Suddenly, Jinlan said, If you want to obtain good treasures in Elixir Immortal Ridge, you have to make him stay. What do you mean? Ning Yu was surprised. Jinlan was really strange. At first, He was against entering Elixir Immortal Ridge because he was afraid of danger. Now he was in favor of entering. Ning, you could not fathom the sudden change of events. What do you mean? Asked Ningyu as he placed the red demon's sword against the blue-clothed man's neck. There are many places in Elixir Immortal Ridge that require intrinsic blood essence. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to move an inch. Jinlan explained, it's the treasure vault of Elixir Immortal Ridge. Without sufficient blood essence, there's no way to open it. What a strange race. They need blood essence for everything. Since Jinlan had said so, Ningyu decided to keep the blue-clothed man alive. Let's go. After instructing the scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf to bring the blue-clothed man and the ferocious berserk wolf to bring Jin Yeming, they carefully approached Elixir Immortal Ridge. As Jinlan was more familiar with Elixir Immortal Ridge, Ningyu did not let the scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf seal her. Instead, he gave her freedom. Return me my silver-white flying sword. The moment she regained her freedom, Jinlan reached out for the silver-white flying sword. Swoosh! Ningyu did not make things difficult for her. Instead, he flicked his wrist and returned the silver-white flying sword to her. The will within the silver-white flying sword had long been devoured and refined by Ningyu. It was not a big deal to hand the silver-white flying sword over to Jinlan. After receiving the silver-white flying sword, Jinlan said, I know a little about Elixir Immortal Ridge. If you follow behind me, there shouldn't be any major problems. As he spoke, Jinlan's figure flashed as she flew into the distance. Ningyu and the scarred, bloodthirsty berserk wolf looked at each other before rising from the ground and giving chase. Not long after, Jinlan came to a stop. There was a transparent barrier in front of her. This is the outer barrier of Elixir Immortal Ridge. You have to know the secret to opening it. You can't break it by force. Jinlan explained, once you break it by force, the array around Elixir Immortal Ridge will be activated. When that happens, the few of us will die a horrible death. Let me do it. Ningyu had devoured Danqi's memories and had long mastered how to break the barrier. Taking a step forward, Ningyu waved his hands repeatedly before suddenly pushing them out. Buzz! As Ningyu pushed out his palm, the transparent barrier trembled and then cracked open with a loud bang. Go in! After the barrier broke, Ningyu took the lead and walked in. This is Elixir Immortal Ridge. On the other side of the barrier, Ningyu's mouth was agape. He was a little speechless. He thought that the interior of Elixir Immortal Ridge would be filled with all sorts of luxurious palaces and buildings. Who would have thought that the surroundings were empty except for a few trees that towered into the clouds? Elixir Immortal Ridge is a space that Danqi opened up using great means. As though he could see Ningyu's doubts, Jinlan explained, let's go to Elixir Hall. If I'm not wrong, all the Dharma treasures and pills should be inside. Jinlan revealed a hint of excitement. Although she quickly concealed her expression, it still couldn't escape Ningyu's detection. Ning, you didn't really trust Jinlan. The fact that Jinlan could survive in the Void Realm was enough to prove that she had some ability. Pay close attention to Jinlan. If she does anything out of line, take her down immediately. Ning, you secretly instructed the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf to keep an eye on Jinlan. Since they had entered Elixir Immortal Ridge, there was no reason for Ningyu to return. Besides, the strongest person in Elixir Immortal Ridge was only a 5th-grade Earth Supreme, but they had 2 6th-grade Earth Sovereigns on their side. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they could do whatever they wanted. Whoosh! Ningyu and the others flew at full speed and soon arrived at Elixir Immortal Hall. He's also in the hall. Ningyu and the others hid in the void and didn't immediately enter Elixir Immortal Hall. That was because Ningyu found an old acquaintance in Elixir Immortal Hall. Kuin Peng Enlightened. Kuin Peng Enlightened was sitting cross-legged on a cushion. On both sides of the cushion was a piece of bone. Kuin Peng Bone. Ningyu was shocked because the two bones were very similar to the bones that Kuan Peng Enlightened had given him. They were Kuan Peng bones. Could it be that these two bones also have the Kuan Peng ominous art? You couldn't calm down. Since he didn't trust Kuan Peng Enlightened, he hadn't practiced the Kuan Peng ominous art. Chapter 1333. Chapter 1333. Freedom of Will. Where is the third Kuan Peng bone? A deep voice was heard from the immortal of Alchemy Hall. Hearing the voice, Kuan Peng, who was sitting on the futon, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a hint of panic in his eyes. However, this flustered expression quickly disappeared and was replaced by a cold snort. Humph! So it was Dan Qi who trapped me with the heaven-slaughtering and earth-destroying formation. Hee. It wasn't Dan Qi who trapped you with the heaven-slaughtering and earth-destroying formation. It was a human. The voice from before rang out once more with a faint smile. Our Dan Qi has a cooperative relationship with him. It seems like you are plotting something big. Kuan Peng stood up from the futon and said in a deep voice, Is it worth it to get 3 Kuan Peng bones? Yes, of course it is. Whoosh! At that moment, an illusionary figure slowly walked out from the deep end of the hall. The illusionary figure nodded and said, Legend has it that gathering all 3 Kuan Peng bones can open the Kuan Peng tomb and obtain the real Kuan Peng ominous art. Kaboom! As the illusionary figure finished speaking, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. The real Kuan Peng ominous art? Could it be that the Kuan Peng ominous art he obtained was fake? Don't even think about the third Kuan Peng bone. My will has the upper hand now. If you force me, I will self-destruct. Kuan Peng's gaze was cold. You should know that without 3 Kuan Peng bones, you will never be able to open the Kuan Peng tomb. Not necessarily, the illusionary figure said. In recent years, the Kuan Peng tomb has changed greatly. Maybe 2 Kuan Peng bones will be enough to open it. The illusionary figure paused for a moment before continuing. Also, do you really think your will has the upper hand? Hearing this, Kuan Peng's heart skipped a beat. Ugh! Then he spat out a mouthful of blood. You! Kuan Peng pointed at the illusionary figure. However, Kuan Peng Taoist seemed to have changed into a different person, as he said respectfully, My lord, there's a slight deviation in the plan, but I've already tricked the kid with the third Kuan Peng bone into the void secret realm. As long as you send a few Earth Supreme Dan Qi, you can capture him at any time. Hearing this, Ningyu was shocked. It turned out that Kuan Peng Sage had lured him to the empty mystic realm not only to avoid the black-clothed martial artist, but also to snatch the Kuan Peng bone. There's no need to rush for now. Dan Immortal Ridge is empty now. Let's wait for a few more hours for the experts of Dan Immortal Ridge to return. Then we can snatch the third Kuan Peng bone. Waving his hand, the illusory figure said, Now, throw me the other 2 Kuan Peng bones. Yes, Kuan Peng Dao Master did not dare to disobey the illusionary figure. He grabbed 2 Kuan Peng bones and threw them at the illusionary figure. Attack! Right at this moment, Ningyu shouted in a deep voice, Xiu! As Ningyu's voice fell, the scarred wolf suddenly tore through the void and dashed out. The scarred wolf was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it stood between Kuan Peng Dao Master and the illusionary figure and grabbed the 2 Kuan Peng bones. Who? The sudden change caused the illusionary figure's expression to change drastically. He yelled, Hurry up and snatch the Kuan Peng bones. Swoosh! Kuan Peng Dao Master was enraged. He immediately rushed out, wanting to snatch the Kuan Peng bones back. Bang! However, Kuan Peng Dao Master's consciousness had the upper hand. He immediately started fighting with the other consciousness. The 2 consciousnesses fought for control of the body, so naturally they could not fight against the scarred wolf. Buzz, buzz! Ningyu appeared in the void and stared at the illusionary figure. This is not your real body. You are very smart. If you are willing to join Dan Immortal Ridge, I can let you lead. And Dan Chi, the illusionary figure, quickly calmed down and said, This promise of yours seems to be very tempting to me. Ningyu frowned, as if he was in deep thought. Think about it. There is no hatred between us. We might even have the same goal. The illusionary figure continued to tempt him. I believe you have a third Kuin Peng bone. If you give me the third Kuin Peng bone, I can help you reach the Earth's supreme realm. Hee, make your move. The corner of Ningyu's lips curled up, and he said, coldly, Whoosh! The ferocious wolf's chi had already locked onto the illusionary figure. Now that Ningyu had given the order, he tore through the void and arrived before the illusionary figure. He threw a punch that brought with it a violent gust of wind. The punch landed on the illusionary figure's head. Whoosh! Though the ferocious wolf's punch was powerful, it only managed to disperse the illusionary figure. Before long, the illusionary figure reformed again. Hee, this is the divine alchemy hall. Here, I am indestructible. The illusionary figure let out an eerie laugh. Time's up. Let everything end here. As it spoke, the illusionary figure formed a series of hand seals. At once, the void cracked open and countless chains appeared, locking down the entire hall. Kaboom! Then, a gap suddenly appeared at the back of the hall. A young living being walked out. You! Seeing the young living being's true appearance, Ningyu's mouth widened. He glanced at the man in blue and was a little shocked. The young living being's appearance was very similar to the man in blue. It could be said that they were carved from the same mold. He is me, I am him. We are the same person, but we are not the same person. The young living being's tone was calm, as if he was talking about something mundane. You. At this moment, perfected being Kuin Peng defeated the consciousness of the divine alchemy ridge and gained control of his body. Perfected being Kuin Peng stared at the young living being as if he had seen a ghost. No wonder you wanted to enter the Kuin Peng tomb. So you have cultivated this spell. This spell was created by the Danchi clan. It is only natural that I cultivate it, the young living being said. Pui! Perfected being Kuin Peng spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, The infinite freedom transformation technique belongs to humans. How can your Danchi clan create it? Ha! History is written by the victors. A defeat is a defeat. There's no point in talking about this. The young living being smiled faintly before turning to look at Ningyu. You are very strong. I can see something extraordinary about you. You shall be my 100th body. Crack! Ningyu's expression was cold. He stomped his right foot heavily and crushed the blue-robed man. If you want to subdue me, that will depend on whether you have the ability, Ningyu said proudly. The reason why Ningyu dared to do so was because he had discovered something special about the hall. The young living being was not very strong. As long as the scarred, bloodthirsty frenzied wolf and the ferocious frenzied wolf could block the array formation, he had a high chance of subduing the young living being. Hand over the infinite freedom transformation technique, and I can spare your life. Chapter 1334. Chapter 1334. Escape. You dared to destroy my clone. Seeing that the blue-clothed man was killed by Ningyu, the young creature's eyes were about to split open, and he roared furiously. The young creature cultivated the boundless embodiment transformation technique. Up until now, he had already cultivated 99 clones. As long as he could form one more clone, he would be able to complete the first step of the boundless embodiment technique. At that time, the young life form strength would increase exponentially, and he could even recover 100th of his peak strength. So be it. If you dare to let the rest of your clones come back, I'll kill them all. Ning Yu's tone was emotionless, without the slightest ripple. Good, good, good. I happen to have a clone here today. I'll let him face you. The young life form had calmed down instead. His lips curled into a smile, and he forced out a drop of blood essence. Uft! The blood essence exploded, and a figure appeared in the palace. The figure that suddenly appeared was roughly 20 years old. He had a head full of green hair and was brimming with vitality. His cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the 9th grade human sovereign. It was obvious that this figure was one of the younger life form's clones. He was at least in the top 50. My name is Qianyu. The green-haired man stomped his right foot on the ground and said coldly, I'll kill you today. A mere pinnacle of the 9th grade human sovereign wants to kill me? Ning Yu's gaze was firm, and he didn't put the green-haired man in his eyes at all. He had already reached the 7th grade human sovereign and was practically invincible beneath the Earth's supreme realm. It could be said that no one could do a thing to him unless they were heaven-defying, half-step Earth sovereigns. Not even the green-haired man, Qianyu. Swish! Ning Yu moved. He was extremely fast and arrived before the green-haired man in an instant. He threw out a punch that didn't contain any fluctuation of energy. It was extremely calm. It was this calm punch that made the green-haired man's expression change drastically, and he immediately retreated. Power of the array, bless me! Qianyu yelled as he retreated. He wanted to borrow the power of the array around him. Kill! Unfortunately, Ning Yu's attack speed was too fast. The red demon's sword suddenly appeared in his hand, and he slashed at the green-haired Qianyu's neck. How dare you! Seeing that the green-haired man was in danger, the young creature roared furiously. The green-haired man was his 50th doppelganger, and he was extremely powerful. This time he had fought on behalf of him with the intention of beheading Ning Yu. But who would have thought that he would be at a disadvantage? Why not? Ning Yu sneered. Soon after, the red demon's sword in his hand fiercely chopped down. Kacha! The flying sword landed on the green-haired Qianyu's neck, instantly decapitating her. Puchi! After losing the 50th clone, the young creature finally showed some changes. It spat out a large mouthful of dark red blood, and its face became a bit pale. Kill! Ning Yu didn't stop after his attack succeeded. Instead, he charged out again, wanting to kill the young creature. Ning Yu was well aware of how powerful the young creatures were. Even the 50th doppelganger had the cultivation of a peak 9th rank mortal supreme. One could imagine how powerful the first few doppelgangers were. Once the first few doppelgangers were summoned by the young creature, the consequences would be unthinkable. Therefore, Ning Yu made his move. He wanted to kill the young creature completely without leaving a trace. Formation rise. The young creature's expression was solemn. He kept retreating while waving his hands. Boom! In an instant, the second formation rose in the hall, enveloping the entire hall within it. Enjoy the joy brought by the formation. The corner of the young creature's lips curled up. Then he disappeared into the air, wanting to leave. Scarred Berserk Wolf, hurry up and stop him. Don't let him disappear, or else there will be endless trouble in the future. Ning Yu yelled, ordering the Scarred Berserk Wolf to attack. The boundless embodiment technique was extremely terrifying. Although Ning Yu didn't believe that the young creature could successfully cultivate it, there was always a chance. If the young creature cultivated the boundless embodiment technique to a higher level, the consequences would be unthinkable. Where do you think you're going? The Scarred Berserk Wolf immediately gave up on resisting the formation and turned to deal with the young creature. As a 6th grade Earth Supreme, the Scarred Berserk Wolf's strength wasn't just for show. He punched the air and landed a punch on the young creature's back. Boom! A muffled sound rang through the air. The young creature staggered, almost dying here. Boundless embodiment technique. At the critical moment, the young creature let out a roar and self-destructed. Countless wisps of blood, mist, merged into the air, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. What a disaster in the end. Ning Yu naturally saw everything. He originally thought that the scarred berserk wolf could stop him. But who would have thought that the young creature would abandon his shell and escape with the boundless embodiment technique? Under such circumstances, even if the scarred berserk wolf's cultivation had reached the high-level Earth Supreme level, he still couldn't capture the young creature. Break the formation with all your might. There must be good treasures in the immortal Dan Hall. Ning Yu ordered the scarred berserk wolf and the ferocious berserk wolf to work together to break the formation. As for himself, he went to Kuin Peng enlightened. Swish, swish, swish. He reached out his hands and tapped on Kuin Peng enlightened's chest a few times, stabilizing him temporarily. I don't have much time left. There are some things that you should know. Even though Ning Yu had sealed him, Kuin Peng enlightened's condition was still not good. The consciousness in his body was constantly fighting back. As long as he relaxed even a little, he would lose control of his body. Gather all 3 Kuin Peng bones and you can open the Kuin Peng's tomb. Inside is the middle part of the boundless embodiment technique. Kuin Peng enlightened's eyes were cloudy as he said, "The young creature's name is Xie. He is the oldest in the Danqi. He has already used a secret technique to remember you. There will be a battle between you two sooner or later. With your current strength, there's no way you can fight against Xie. You must hurry up and reach the Earth Supreme level as soon as possible." Ha ha ha. Earth Supreme? Master is undefeatable. This kid will never be able to fight against my master. Another consciousness inside Kuin Peng, enlightened, took the upper hand and laughed. Master has thousands of clones and is everywhere. He will seek revenge at any time. Shut up. Kuin Peng enlightened's eyes lit up and scolded. Worst comes to worst, we'll fight to the death. Fight to the death? Who's afraid of who? Another consciousness said coldly. He did not believe that Kuin Peng enlightened would do such a thing. Ning Yu on the 3 Kuin Peng bones. There is a simple Kuin Peng ominous art. As for whether they are the real Kuin Peng ominous art, I don't know. Kuin Peng enlightened paused and continued. I don't have much time left. I'll use the last bit of time to break the inhibition spells under the Hall of Alchemy for you. Leaping into the air, Kuin Peng enlightened turned his head around and drilled into the ground. Crack! After entering the ground, Kuin Peng enlightened's speed became faster and faster. Chapter 1335. Chapter 1335. Primordial Pill Essence. What are you doing? Stop right now. Kuin Peng perfected being's other consciousness scolded while trying to regain control of his body. Ha ha ha. Mutual destruction. Kuin Peng perfected being laughed maniacally before his body exploded. Rumble. Kuin Peng perfected being an Earth Supreme. The shockwave from his explosion should be extremely terrifying. However, Kuin Peng perfected being had a good grasp of the situation. The shockwave from his explosion did not spread to other places, but directly struck the ground. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, several chains seemed to have been broken. Whoosh! After the chains were broken, a beam of light shot out from the ground and flew toward the surface at a shocking speed. The speed of the beam of light increased, and in the blink of an eye it rushed out of the ground, trying to rush out of the celestial Dan Hall. Stop it! Ning Yu yelled in the celestial Dan Hall. Although he did not know what the beam of light was, Ning Yu knew that something released by Kuin Peng perfected being's self-destruction was definitely not ordinary. Whoosh! 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 Inside the hall, Ning Yu, the scarred berserk wolf, and the ferocious berserk wolf worked together to surround the beam of light. The beam of light was not an ordinary object. Under the combined efforts of Ning Yu and the other two, it was still able to escape with ease. Ningyu had no choice but to take out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword rays in the air. Each sword ray was aimed at the beam of light. The scarred berserk wolf and the ferocious berserk wolf sealed the space and gradually shrunk the seal. "Hurry up! I can feel someone coming." Not long after, Ningyu yelled and his expression changed drastically. Seal. Since Ningyu could feel someone coming, the scarred berserk wolf and the others naturally felt it too. Forming hand seals, the scarred berserk wolf and the ferocious berserk wolf attacked with all their might. The seal continued to shrink, trapping the beam of light. Go! After trapping the beam of light, the scarred berserk wolf tore the void and tried to leave. Not good, hide. However, as soon as the scarred wolf's right foot stepped into the void, his expression changed drastically, and he hastily changed his strategy. His body swayed and merged with the void. "Bring Jinlan along." Ningyu glanced at Jinlan before entering the void. "Pa!" The ferocious, bloodthirsty wolf grabbed Jinlan and pulled him into the void. Everything came and went quickly. Inside the celestial Dan Hall, Ningyu and the others had completely disappeared, blending into the void. There was only a corpse lying flat in the hall, looking extremely cold. Buzz! Not long after, the space in front of the celestial Dan Hall cracked open, and a group of silhouettes appeared. As soon as these people appeared, they let out hysterical roars. Although the celestial Dan Hall was not destroyed, it became extremely unstable and could collapse at any time. Shio! In the blink of an eye, the old man in the lead entered the celestial Dan Hall. Behind the old man, several figures descended at the same time. Who is it? The old man's gaze was cold as he scanned the hall, hoping to find some clues. So powerful. In the void, Ningyu's essence merged into his body, not daring to leak the slightest bit. Ningyu had already determined that the old man in the celestial Dan Hall was an 8th grade Earth sovereign. He was extremely powerful. The experts behind the old man were also terrifying. All of them were 6th grade Earth sovereigns and 7th grade Earth sovereigns. They're the upper echelons of the celestial Dan Hall. The scarred berserk wolf explained. The upper echelons of the celestial Dan Hall. Ningyu knitted his brows. He vaguely felt that something was amiss. Since they were the upper echelons of the celestial Dan Hall, they would definitely investigate carefully. If they did, the chances of him being exposed would be greatly increased. I have to think of a way. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said to the scarred berserk wolf, "Show me the light beam." The scarred berserk wolf took out a piece of crystal and handed it over to Ningyu. This piece of crystal was a seal, and the light beam was sealed inside. Receiving the crystal, Ningyu was shocked. It's the primordial elixir essence. Ningyu couldn't believe his eyes. He even rubbed his eyes. The primordial elixir essence was the treasure of the Pill Puppet clan. According to legend, a complete primordial elixir essence could create a flawless, peerless elixir puppet. And the peerless elixir puppet that was created had a 90% chance of advancing to the Sky Supreme Realm. The ancestor isn't here. Inside the celestial Dan Hall, a 6th grade Earth Supreme elixir puppet beside the old man said carefully. The ancestor he was referring to was obviously the young life form. The ancestor cultivates the myriad embodiment technique. He won't die so easily. Every time he suffers a serious injury, it's a transformation. Don't worry about it. The old man waved his hand and said, "Investigate at all costs. We have to find out who's causing trouble here." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As the old man's voice fell, Dan Chi, who was next to him, began to carefully investigate the surroundings. This girl seems to have the bloodline of the Jin clan. The old man didn't move. His gaze fell on Jin Yeming. Could it be that the Jin clan is on guard? The old man's voice suddenly stopped halfway, and he said in a low voice, "Voila!" The Dan Chi of the celestial Dan Hall returned in the blink of an eye, and stood beside the old man. At this moment, the space in front of the hall split open again, and a group of people appeared. What is the meaning of this? The old man's face instantly darkened when he saw the sudden appearance of these people. These people were none other than the experts of the Jean clan. The experts of the Jean clan and Celestial Danridge had gone to a place in the Void Realm to fight for the treasure. In the end, the treasure was split into two. The experts of the Celestial Danridge and the Jean clan each took one half. Nothing much. I just feel that it's a waste for such a treasure to fall into your hands. Why don't you hand it over to us for the time being? The leader of the Jean clan was a middle-aged man with a square face. His aura was vigorous. He had reached the 8th grade Earth Supreme Realm, the same as the old man from the Celestial Danridge. Jean Liefei, this is the Celestial Danridge. How dare you cause trouble here? The old man's face was cold as he berated. I want you to leave now. Otherwise, the ancestor will definitely kill you when he shows up. Ancestor. The man called Jean Liefei raised the corner of his lips and said in disdain, The Danqi clan might be powerful, but it's impossible for your ancestor to, that is. As Jean Liefei spoke, he shifted his gaze into the hall, especially when he saw Jean Yeming lying flat on the ground in the main hall. He went berserk. Jean E told me that Jean Yeming was killed by your Danqi clan. I didn't believe it at first, but now I'm sure that Jean Yeming was killed by you guys. Jean Liefei took a step forward. Instantly, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. I didn't have a good excuse to make a move against the Celestial Danridge. Since that's the case, let's flatten the Celestial Danridge. Whoosh! Following Jean Liefei's words, the experts behind him moved out one after another. The weakest among the experts that Jean Liefei brought was a 5th grade Earth Supreme Realm. There was even one that was the same as him, an 8th grade Earth Supreme Realm. Chapter 1336. Devour. Kill. Since the conflict couldn't be resolved, the old man from the Pellet Divine Ridge roared and charged at Jean Liefei. The old man's name was Demon Shield, the strongest pellet puppet in the Pellet Divine Ridge. His cultivation was at the pinnacle 8th grade Earth Sovereign Realm, just half a step away from the 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. Rumble. In the sky, Demon Shield wasn't in a disadvantageous position despite facing two opponents. Ha ha ha. Jean Liefei, this is the Pellet Divine Ridge, and I can unleash 120% of my strength here. How are you going to fight me? After forcing Jean Liefei back with a single move, Venerable Shield Demon threw his head back and laughed. Really? The corner of Jean Liefei's lips rose as he took out a scroll and threw it into the sky. Boom! The scroll exploded and a silhouette appeared. What? When that silhouette appeared, Ning Yu's face drastically changed. A Heavenly Supreme's clone. Ning Yu knew that the silhouette that walked out of the scroll was a Heavenly Supreme's clone. How terrifying was a Heavenly Supreme! He could kill Demon Shield with a flick of his finger. It could be said that the difference between a Heavenly Supreme and an Earth Sovereign was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even an Earth Sovereign wouldn't be able to resist the pressure of a Heavenly Supreme. The Jean clan's ancestor is actually still alive. Demon Shield's face turned grave as he continued. I believe that refining this clone must have exhausted a lot of your ancestor's blood essence. Haha, it's worth it, no matter how much blood essence I've exhausted. Jean Liefei faintly smiled. As long as we can obtain the treasure in your hand and take the primordial pellet essence away, our ancestor might be able to recover. If you want the primordial pellet essence, you'll have to see if you're capable enough. Demon Shield's face was cold as he stomped his right foot on the ground. Crack! As Demon Shield's right foot stomped on the ground cracked and a massive silhouette appeared. Unconscious pellet puppet. The massive silhouette was the unconscious pellet puppet, the trump card of the pellet Divine Ridge. I didn't expect you to also have a trump card. It seems that I have underestimated you. Looking at the unconscious pellet puppet, Jean Liafei took a deep breath. Although your unconscious pellet puppet can temporarily block the Heavenly Sovereign clone, you can't block our attacks. As soon as the word attack was uttered, Jean Liafei punched out with his right fist. Instantly, the void split apart, and a huge fist appeared in front of the shield demon's supremacy. Bang! Facing Jean Liafei's fist, Venerable Shield Demon pointed a finger at Jean Liafei's fist. When the two sides collided, Jean Liafei and Venerable Shield Demon both retreated at the same time. At the same time, the Heavenly Sovereign clone had already fought with the unconscious pellet puppet. The unintentional sense pellet puppet and the Heavenly Supreme clone strength was around the 9th grade Earth Sovereign realm. Neither of them could do anything to the other in a short period of time. Go. Jean Liafei had never understood the logic of a one-on-one battle, so he barked before joining forces with another 8th grade Earth Sovereign to attack the shield demon Venerable. Should we leave now? In the void, the scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf's mouth was dry, and beads of sweat had even appeared on his forehead. The battle between several high-rank Earth Sovereigns might affect this place, whether it was Jean Liafei or the shield demon Venerable. Both of them could instantly kill him. The scarred wolf didn't want to lose his life here. Do you think that you can leave now? Ning Yu knitted his brows. Jean Liafei and the rest have already sealed this area. No one can enter or leave. Then what should we do? Are we just going to wait for death here? The scarred wolf grew anxious. What are you panicking for? Ning Yu coldly said, You and the ferocious wolf protect me. I'm going to try and refine the primordial pellet essence. What? Upon hearing Ning Yu's words, the scarred, bloodthirsty wolf was not the only one shocked. Even Jean Lan's mouth was agape, and he was speechless for a long time. The primordial pellet essence was a terrifying existence. Refine it? Without at least 8 to 10 years, it was basically impossible. Crack! Ning, you couldn't be bothered with the gazes of the scarred wolf and the rest. He took out the primordial pellet essence and threw it into his mouth. Exerting a little force, Ning Yu crushed the primordial pellet essence and swallowed it. Law of space. His hands formed seals, but Ning Yu did not use the spiritual transformation art. Instead, he called out the law of space. The reason why the primordial pellet essence was so precious was because there was a chance of refining it to cultivate the power of law. The power of law was something that even heavenly sovereigns yearned for. The law of space that appeared in Ning Yu's body wasn't complete, and it was only at the initial stage. If he could use the primordial pellet essence to refine the law of space, he might be able to produce a trace of the law of space. Buzz. Actually, there was no need for Ning Yu to summon it, since the law of space had already appeared. The primordial pellet essence was a fatal temptation to the law of space. In fact, even the tree sapling that had been sleeping the entire time transmitted a message to him. Unfortunately, I'm in a deep sleep and can't devour the primordial pellet essence. It's a good thing for that ignorant law of space. Maybe it can use this to give birth to a consciousness. The first half of the message that the sapling transmitted made Ning Yu feel speechless. However, the latter half of her words directly shocked Ning Yu. It could make the law of space give birth to a consciousness. This was an extremely terrifying thing. Without reaching the Saint Realm, it was extremely difficult to refine the power of law. It required opportunities and many heavenly materials and earthly treasures. However, once the law gave birth to a consciousness, it could absorb the heaven and earth yuan qi to cultivate and slowly grow stronger. Although the speed was very slow, this kind of conscious law could make many heavenly sovereigns go crazy. Since you want to fuse it, I'll help you. Ning Yu gritted his teeth and used a spell, forcibly scattering the primordial pellet essence and then slowly injecting it into the law of space. The law of space used to be like the sapling, able to devour many heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Now, there was no difficulty in devouring the primordial pellet essence. He can't really refine the primordial pellet essence, can he? Beside Ningyu, Jinlan's mouth was wide open, as if he had seen a ghost. Jinlan knew a lot about the primordial pellet essence. Only heavenly sovereigns could refine and devour it. Otherwise, it was very likely that their bodies would explode and they would die. But Ningyu was refining the primordial pellet essence here with his 7th grade Earth Supreme cultivation, and it seemed like there was no problem. This was really like seeing a ghost. Is it really not a waste for a human sovereign to refine the primordial pellet essence? The scarred, bloodthirsty mad wolf and the ferocious, bloodthirsty mad wolf looked at each other. They could see the regret in each other's eyes. They didn't know that Ningyu had the law of space, which was why they had such thoughts. If they knew that Ningyu had the law of space, they would probably be shocked speechless. Ningyu is a freak. Maybe he can succeed. Chapter 1337. Sovereign Blood Essence. I feel that you guys have to think of a way to stop Ningyu. Jinlan had a different view, so she continued, You guys should be clearer than me about the consequences of Ningyu's failure. We naturally know the consequences of Ningyu's failure, but do you dare to wake Ningyu up? The scarred berserk wolf continued, Once the primordial pellet essence starts to fuse, it can't be stopped halfway. Otherwise, the refiner will be heavily injured or even die. Jinlan's face was dark, and no one knew what she was thinking. Let's protect Ningyu. What if Ningyu succeeds? Although they didn't trust Ningyu, Scar, bloodthirsty mad wolf, and the others had no other choice but to trust Ningyu. Their fates had long been tied to Ningyu. If Ningyu lived, they lived. If Ningyu died, they died. The two of them spread out their perception and paid close attention to the battle in the distance. Since the battle between the Shield Demon Venerable and Jean Liefei had reached a critical moment, they wouldn't come over to investigate for the time being. This period of time was the last bit of time left for Ningyu. Rumble. The battle between the Shield Demon Venerable and Jean Liefei grew more intense. The Shield Demon Venerable was a ruthless person. Not only did he not lose, but he even grew more courageous. Half an hour later, he killed the other 8th grade Earth Sovereign of the Jean clan. In the Earth Sovereign realm, especially in the 8th grade Earth Sovereign realm, it was tough to kill the other party. However, the Shield Demon Venerable had grasped the secret technique of the Pill Centipede clan and killed the 8th grade Earth Sovereign when he was unprepared. Good, very good. Seeing his companion being killed, Jean Liefei's hair fluttered with a ferocious expression on her face. Today, I'm destined to trample the celestial pellet ridge. Whoosh! Jean Liefei moved. As a peerless expert of the Jean family, Jean Liefei's position in the Jean family was enough to rank in the top 3. This time he was entrusted by the old ancestor to enter the Void Realm to fight for the fortuitous encounter. For this opportunity, the great ancestor of the Jean family didn't even hesitate to consume his essence blood to refine a doppelganger. If he couldn't bring the primordial Dan essence and the treasures from other places back to the Jean family, then the Jean family's ancestors' injuries would most likely worsen, and he might even be in danger of dying. Jean Liefei took out a jade bottle, exerted a little force in his right hand, and crushed the jade bottle with a cracking sound. Rumble. What was inside the jade bottle was not a medicinal pill, but a drop of blood. A drop of heavenly supreme blood essence. Chi-Chi. The drop of blood essence seemed to know its mission. After leaving the jade bottle, it exploded and fused with Jean Liefei. Jean Liefei's aura gradually strengthened along with a series of sizzling sounds. 8th grade Mid-Earth Sovereign, 8th grade Late Earth Sovereign, 8th grade Peak Earth Sovereign. Bang! When this sound was heard, Jean Liefei's aura suddenly changed. Ninth grade Earth Sovereign. At this moment, Jean Liefei had forcefully raised his cultivation to the ninth grade Earth Sovereign realm after receiving the drop of blood essence of a heavenly sovereign. Although it could only last for a few minutes, those few minutes were more than enough for Jean Liefei. Jean Liefei was confident that a ninth grade Earth Sovereign could kill the Shield Demon Venerable within a few minutes against a pinnacle 8th grade Earth Sovereign. Retreat! The Shield Demon Venerable was decisive. When he saw that Jean Liefei's cultivation had risen to the 9th grade Earth Sovereign realm, he no longer had the intention to continue fighting. He forcefully tore through space and fled. Where do you think you're going? At this moment, Jean Liefei would naturally not allow the Shield Demon Venerable to escape. He waved his hand and a massive palm appeared, pressing towards the Shield Demon Venerable. Break! Although he was fleeing at full speed, the Shield Demon Supremacy did not panic. As he fled, he executed all sorts of techniques in an attempt to block Jean Liefei's palm. However, the Shield Demon Venerable had clearly underestimated Jean Liefei's strength. Even if he was struck by all sorts of techniques, Jean Liefei's palm still landed on the Shield Demon Venerable's shoulder. Crack! At this moment, blood splattered as the Shield Demon Venerable's shoulder was torn off. Jean Liefei, I'll definitely pay a visit to the Jean clan in the future. The Shield Demon Supremacy was extremely aggrieved. He was originally stronger than Jean Liefei, but Jean Liefei had fused with the Heavenly Supreme's blood essence, causing his fighting strength to soar. If Jean Liefei didn't possess the Heavenly Supreme's blood essence, the Shield Demon Venerable would have long killed Jean Liefei. Jean Liefei wouldn't have the chance to act so fiercely here. There's no need because you'll die today. Jean Liefei took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of the Shield Demon Venerable. He formed seals with both hands and attacked the Shield Demon Venerable. Unconscious pellet. At this critical moment, the Shield Demon Venerable did not choose to fight head-on. Instead, he summoned back the unconscious pellet that was fighting the Heavenly Supreme's clone. Although the unconscious pellet had no consciousness, it still obeyed the Shield Demon Venerable's command. As soon as the Shield Demon Venerable finished his words, the unconscious pellet tore through space and appeared in front of him. Kill him! The Shield Demon Venerable coldly said while pointing at Jean Liefei. You want to kill me? I'm afraid that won't be easy. The corner of Jean Liefei's lips rose. The appearance of the Heavenly Supreme's clone had boosted his confidence. Everyone come back! Jean Liefei roared and summoned the experts of the Jean family to his side. On the other side, the Shield Demon Venerable did the same thing. He summoned the experts of the pellet puppet to his side. In an instant, the scene became strange. Logically speaking, Jean Liefei had just fused with the Heavenly Supreme's blood essence, so he should be killing the Shield Demon Venerable. But now he did not say a word and stood on the spot with his hands behind his back. No one knew what Jean Liefei was trying to do, nor did they know why he was doing this. Make use of the time to recuperate. Although he had no idea what Jean Liefei was doing, this period of time was extremely precious to the Shield Demon Venerable. He immediately sat down and began to absorb the energy between the heavens and earth. The Shield Demon Venerable needed time to recover to his peak state before finding a way to communicate with the Heavenly Supreme's blood essence from the Pellet Immortal. The Jean family had a Heavenly Supreme, and so did the Pellet Immortal Ridge in the past. However, the Heavenly Supreme from the Pellet Immortal Ridge had left the Void Realm a long time ago. Before leaving, the Heavenly Supreme from the Pellet Immortal Ridge left behind 3 drops of blood essence. The first drop of blood essence was obtained by Xie Yi, who cultivated the myriad embodiment technique, and he refined it into his body. The The second drop of blood essence was taken away by the Pellet clan outside the Void Realm to nurture the peerless Pellet puppet. As for the third drop of blood essence, it was still under the celestial Danhall. Sovereign's blood essence. The shield demon Venerable used a secret technique to communicate with the Sovereign's blood essence under the celestial Danhall. Die. In an instant, Jean Liefei opened his eyes and grabbed at the void with his right hand. A cold light flew out. Chapter 1338. Chapter 1338. Soulstone what? Although Supremacy Shield Demon had been keeping an eye on Jean Liefei, he was still taken aback when Jean Liefei unleashed this cold light. That's because Jean Liefei's cold beam was so powerful that even ordinary 9th grade sovereigns might not be able to withstand it. No wonder you didn't continue to attack. So you were accumulating energy. Demon Shield yelled as he turned around and left. Demon Shield wasn't a fool, and he knew the gap between him and Jean Liefei. Right now, the best solution was to avoid it and wait for Jean Liefei's aura to drop before making a move. You think you can escape? The corners of Jean Liefei's mouth rose into an arc. Soon after, he chased after Han Guang and charged towards the shield demon Venerable. Go, stop him! Demon Shield fled while instructing the Dan puppet to make a move, hoping to drag some time for him. At this moment, Demon Shield already felt a little regretful. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have stayed behind to contact the Sovereign's blood essence. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The Dan puppets blocked Jean Liefei's path. The unconscious Dan puppet did not make a move, but hid in the void, preparing to deal a fatal blow to Jean Liefei according to Demon Shield's instructions. All of you get lost. Jean Liefei charged into the group of Dan puppets and attacked from both sides. Every time he punched out, a powerful Earth Supreme would be sent flying. Jean Liefei did not kill those Dan puppets, since he wanted to preserve his strength to chase after Demon Shield. Whoosh! At this moment, the unconscious Dan Chi hidden in the void moved. But when it made a move, it was shocking. The Dan puppet tore through space, and a massive palm slapped towards Jean Liefei's head. The might of the Dan puppet's fist was extremely powerful, and it was a killing blow. Even if Jean Liefei had fused with the Sovereign's blood essence and possessed the strength of a 9th grade Earth Sovereign, he still felt a little fearful at this moment. Crack! Fortunately, the Heavenly Sovereign clone that Jean Liefei had brought along leaped out and blocked that fist for Jean Liefei. As for Jean Liefei himself, he chased after Demon Shield and fought with him. This time, Demon Shield was in a disadvantageous position. In just a few moves, Venerable Shield Demon was severely injured. Worst comes to worst, we'll just perish together. Venerable Shield Demon's body swelled up. Not good, he's going to self-destruct. Jean Liefei's expression changed drastically when he saw Venerable Shield Demon's actions, and he hastily retreated. Formation. At the same time, Jean Liefei waved his hands repeatedly, setting up a huge formation around him. In the array, Jean Liefei sat at the array core with his Heavenly Sovereign clone at the front. As long as the situation wasn't right, the Heavenly Supreme clone would be abandoned. Rumble. The shield demon Venerable was very decisive. His body rapidly expanded and finally exploded. The self-detonation of an Earth Supreme Realm cultivator was extremely terrifying. If an ordinary cultivator were to approach it, they would most likely die. On the other hand, Venerable Shield Demon was an 8th grade Earth Sovereign, so the power of his self-destruction was extremely terrifying. At that instant, the entire Celestial Dan Ridge was almost destroyed. Even a small space, like the Celestial Elixir Ridge, nearly shattered. Kacha! Inside the Celestial Dan Ridge, the Celestial Dan Hall, Jean Liefei had his back against the Celestial Dan Hall with his Heavenly Sovereign clone at the front. with the experts of the Jin clan at the back. They were bitterly holding on. Boom! Roughly 10-odd minutes later, the Heavenly Sovereign clone finally couldn't hold on any longer and exploded. One must know that the sturdiness of the unconscious pellet puppet wasn't any weaker than the Heavenly Sovereign clone. Although there was an array between the Heavenly Sovereign clone and the unconscious pellet puppet, the terrifying fluctuation still caused the Heavenly Sovereign clone to disintegrate. When the Heavenly Sovereign clone disintegrated and the fluctuation from Venerable Shield Demon's self-destruction clashed, the two forces were swiftly neutralizing each other. As time passed, the two fluctuations grew weaker and showed signs of dissipating. However, Jin Liefei did not dare to be careless. The sovereign's blood essence in his body was almost exhausted. At this moment, he was extremely weak, and it was hard for him to maintain the array. If it wasn't for the experts of the Jin clan supplying him with energy, he would have collapsed by now. Hold on for another half an hour. Half an hour later, the fluctuation will completely disappear. Jin Liefei sat at the core of the array as he barked to stabilize the morale of the troops. With Jin Liefei's words, the experts of the Jin family all heaved a sigh of relief, secretly thinking that it was a close call. Although they had experienced all sorts of difficulties in the Void Realm, they did not disappoint the old ancestor. After Shield Demon's self-destruction, there was a palm-sized stone beneath him. The stone was crimson in color, and it was extremely dazzling. That stone was the reason why Jin Liefei and the rest entered the Void Realm this time. I'll take that stone and search the Celestial Pellet Hall to find the primordial pellet essence. At this point, Jin Liefei relaxed a little. Even the strongest expert of the Celestial Pellet Ridge was killed by him, not to mention those small fries. Furthermore, those small fries in the Celestial Pellet Ridge were already affected by Shield Demon's self-destruction. Not many of them could survive. Huff! While Jin Liefei was bitterly resisting the Shield Demon's self-destruction, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. You refined the primordial pellet essence. Jin Lan widened his mouth as he looked at Ningyu in disbelief. She never expected that Ningyu could refine the primordial pellet essence in such a short period of time. I was just lucky. Ningyu smiled at Jin Lan and said, I don't know what's going on outside right now. Ningyu's voice came to an abrupt stop as he cursed. You clearly remembered that when he started refining the primordial pellet essence, Jin Liefei was fighting with Shield Demon. How long had it been? Their battle had actually ended, and Ningyu even realized that Shield Demon was forced to self-destruct. Shield Demon was a pinnacle 8th grade Earth Sovereign, a peerless genius in the Celestial Pellet Ridge. Even he was forced to self-destruct, so one could tell how powerful Jin Liefei's party was. It's like this. Seeing Ningyu's doubt, the scarred wolf explained and told Ningyu everything that had happened. I see. Ningyu nodded his head and continued. The Heavenly Supreme clone also exploded, and Jin Liefei was heavily injured. For a moment, Ningyu's mind became a little active. He had already become enemies with the Jin clan, so there was no way to resolve it. If he could get rid of the Jin clan's powerhouses in the Void Realm, it would be of great help to him when he went to the Thousand-Leaf Empire in the future. That's a soul stone. Ningyu's mouth was wide open. His eyes were fixed on the crimson crystal, and he exclaimed, There's actually a soul stone here? Could it be that someone is trying to break through to the Heavenly Supreme Realm? In his previous life, Ningyu was a pinnacle 9th grade alchemist, so his soul energy was extremely powerful. Therefore, he didn't use a soul stone when he broke through to the Heavenly Supreme Realm. Just because Ningyu didn't use one didn't mean that others didn't. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.